Councillor Van Passen a question?
You don't have the clerk present. You do have a quorum of council, so I would do as you wish, but I would be careful.
Okay, well then I'm just asking about the correction on the tax levy bylaw. I can wait. I will wait.
It was just a typo, right? So I think it was last year's number or something. So
All set, Teresa?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so moving on, now we're at consent items. We do have three. Councillor Michelli, I see your hands up, so I'm assuming you want one of those pulled.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to pull item 4.3, CS 22-34 for a brief discussion.
Okay.
Through the mayor, if I may, we actually have four because we just moved that planning.
Oh, sorry, the fourth. Yep. Councillor Columbus, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question with respect to item 4.2.
All right, so can we just move through these quickly, Teresa? Councillor Columbus, do you want to start with your question on 4.2 and then we'll just approve them all as well?
Yes, this is the CN Railway and Drainage issue for non-payment of taxes. And I just wonder if staff knows how long has this been delinquent for, and are we charging interest on this debt?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will endeavor to get the answer for you, hopefully before the end of this council meeting, but if not, we will send an email to all of council.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
That's all, Councillor Columbus, on 4.2. Okay, and Councillor Michelli regarding 4.3. Sounds like a good news story.
Madam Mayor. Just with regard to that report, first, an excellent report by Mr. Wallace on that topic. Maybe I would like to comment on the wisdom of granting that lease agreement to Execulink, the internet service provider there, to put their equipment on the Port Rowan water tower. It's a very good plan that they have, and I think that's excellent rationale for accepting what the report acknowledges is a less than market rate for the lease amount. But I believe that is a very good move, as it will allow Long Point, which, as the report indicates, and I think I've mentioned before, was the very first approved project by the Southwest Integrated Fiber Technology Board, and could end up being one of the last ones completed. And so this is a great opportunity to allow those residents who have been so patient to receive their high-speed internet at a reasonable cost, and certainly the best part is sooner than later. So I think it's a very good move by staff. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Michelli, for those comments. I think moving forward, I think this period is kind of for questions on some of the reports. But with that, I'm just, if I could get a motion to approve all of the consent items, that's for 4.1 through 4.3 with the additional, I just can't remember the numbering here, which was CD 2211 ZNPL 2021327. Mover and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Van Passen, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, moving on then. Teresa, just so I remember here, the changes, we're going to have the deputation presented this time.
The first deputation, yes, please. So that would be Cindy present.
Cindy. And Cindy, if you're on the line, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes for your deputation. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and members of council, county staff, and members of public. My name is Cindy Present. I'm a resident of Port Rowan, and I am the environmental director for the Norfolk Field Naturalists. I'm making this presentation on their behalf. We are commenting on the forest conservation bylaw, which went under review 2 years ago, and which Adam Biddle has been working on with his forestry team for the last 2 years, in collaboration with groups such as ours. We have been very pleased to have been involved in making recommendations and comments on the different drafts of the bylaw as time has gone on. We also had one of our commenters was internationally known ecologist who lives here in Norfolk County, and her name is Mary Gartshore. And she commented and contributed to the 2006 bylaw, which is what we have currently, and also commented on these drafts that we have right now. Adam Biddle did an excellent approach to communicating with stakeholders and gathering information from all groups. So I want to thank him and his team for the work that they did relating to that and for taking our comments into consideration. We have a few comments to make specifically about things that we support in this draft of the bylaw and things that we do not support. And I also just want to take a minute to talk about Norfolk County as a whole. It's considered an ecological jewel across Canada. It draws attention from naturalists around the world for its biodiversity. It has some of the highest biodiversity in Canada, and it is nationally recognized on many levels for the plants, the trees, and the wildlife that it has here. So this is not, this is of great importance, this bylaw, in how this ecology will be maintained and conserved through the years. All right, so in general, the NFN is providing a voice for the wildlife and for the trees, for the biodiversity that's in these areas. Other stakeholders have been consulted with, but of course, we want to provide a voice for these other silent stakeholders. And with respect to the proposed changes to the bylaw, we're supporting a few general areas. We're supporting Section 9 penalty, which relates to retaining the fines structure for individuals and corporations if they contravene the bylaw. We think this is a really important deterrent, and it's important as part of the whole collection of tools that the county has to help ensure that the bylaw is being followed. We are also very happy to see the inclusion of good forestry practices to replace circumference limits. This is modern forestry science, and it is designed to help conserve and sustain the forests. So now let's quickly go to the areas that we are not in support of. We are not in support of adding the definition of normal farm practices into the bylaw definitions and exemptions. This is, to some degree, preferential treatment to one group of landowners who own forests. Farmers are one, but there are many other private landowners who have forests in Norfolk County, and we believe that they should all be treated equally. Also, normal farm practices is an agricultural designation legislation. Forestry is different from agriculture. A forest is not an agricultural field, and we believe that it is very important to recognize the complex system that forests are, that they help provide us with clean water, clean air. They help to moderate the climate around farms and around the entire county. And they also provide habitat for this diversity of species, which helps support our economy in ways other than just tree harvesting. It supports recreation, it supports ecotourism on many levels, hunting, fishing, and these all depend on an interconnected area of forest. So if one area of the forest is affected, it does affect all the other areas as well. So that's something to consider. We also would prefer to see stronger wording in section Schedule F, which refers to the retention of species at risk trees. So we'd like to see that strengthened. It says encourage. We'd like to hear stronger wording so that people realize that they must adhere to provincial legislation regarding species at risk. And the last area that I want to focus on is the definition of woodlot.
Just to let you know, Cindy, you've got 1 minute remaining.
Thank you very much. All right. Woodlands have now been increased. The area that is going to be considered for protection has been decreased from 0.2 hectares to 0.4 hectares. We would prefer to see the 0.2 hectares retained. So in conclusion, seeing that this is my time, I'd like to emphasize that as in the beginning of the bylaw, that the forest conservation bylaw is meant to improve environmental conditions and maintain and enhance forest integrity and wildlife habitat. We would like to see that maintained. We would like to continue to be an active participant in commenting on bylaws and issues that relate to Norfolk County from an environmental perspective. And to reiterate my 2 points, we would like to see normal farm practices removed from the definitions and exemptions in the bylaw. And we would like to see language strengthened for species at risk. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Cindy. Any questions for the deputation from council? Okay, seeing none then, if I could have a mover and seconder to receive the deputation's information. Councillor Martin, thanks, and seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks for joining us, Cindy.
Thanks very much.
And moving on, I guess, Mr. Biddle, I think we're turning it over to you now for your presentation on the bylaw update with the issues and options.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. And if you just bear with me for 1 second, I will share my screen here. Closer. Just make sure they can hear you and see it. Yeah. So, are you able to see my screen? Yes.
Sorry, Adam, nothing up there yet on my end.
Okay.
I'm seeing heads being shook there from council as well.
Adam, we now see your screen that has all of council. Now it's gone.
Okay. Seem to be that should work there. All right. How's that?
We see it now.
That's great.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Chop and councillors. I'm before you today to give a quick update on the forest bylaw review. Since I last spoke to you in November, staff have met with various community stakeholders, and I've had an opportunity to further develop the draft forest bylaw. I'd like to thank Ms. President for her deputation today. She has highlighted some of the concerns raised by some of the stakeholders. I would like to acknowledge all the other stakeholders too that have been from the forest industry, just a general landowners in Norfolk County, and all the people that submitted comments today. We've had a lot of input, and it's definitely helped mold and shape this draft bylaw that we have before us today. So, interestingly enough, since we first put out the draft bylaw, the first draft bylaw at the start of 2021, the feedback and input we've received has led to the development of the draft bylaw, not a whole lot different from our current bylaw, which we are seeing as a good thing. We've heard a lot that, the current bylaw does work. And with that said, the current bylaw was implemented in 2006, and it was definitely worthwhile revisiting and reviewing the bylaw. There have been a number of improvements made with respect to recognizing normal farm practices, developing better minimum standards when it comes to commercial timber harvesting. And we were also able to address a number of housekeeping items, such as removing reference to the Ontario Municipal Board. With that said, there still are a few items that staff feel are worth a discussion with council, which will be the focus of my presentation today. Throughout the presentation, I will be referring to these discussion points as issues, for lack of a better term, but for the record, staff have taken a standpoint on these issues and are able to provide their opinion and help explain our rationale. It's also worth noting that the draft bylaw will go through a legal review and before being presented to council in the next couple months. I'm hoping to be able to run through these 5 discussion points, highlighting some of the thought process behind each point, and then address any questions you may have at the conclusion of the presentation. We're not necessarily looking for direction, but it would be beneficial to know where council stands on some of these points before bringing a final draft forward for consideration. So we're hoping to hear your thoughts and opinions, and discussion on these points is more than welcome. So with that, I will just get into the presentation here. I'm planning on highlighting 5 issues that have kind of been brought forward as part of these consultations we've had over the course of the last year. First one was mentioned in the deputation this morning, and that's with regards to the size of woodland that we're looking to regulate. Second issue is relating specifically to tree fence rows and how they're handled and addressed in the bylaw. We will be looking at the exemptions in the bylaw, specifically one exemption that has been removed in the draft bylaw that is in the current bylaw, relating to an exemption for owners with a building permit. We're going to speak briefly about harvest permit fees and the exemption permit process. So starting off with the area of woodland that is regulated, our current bylaw regulates woodlands right down to 0.2 hectares or half of an acre. We are looking to modify that in the proposed draft bylaw to 0.4 hectares or the equivalent of 1 acre. So just this map may not give a great picture. On the left, you'll see woodlands that are 0.5 acres or less in area. Those are areas that are current or 0.5 acres up to 1 acre. Those are areas that are currently regulated. To the right, you'll see woodland that's 0.6 acres and 1 acre. So in this case, with the draft bylaw, the 0.6 acres would not be regulated. The 1 acre would be regulated. So through this change, we will be unregulating, I'll say, smaller patches of woodland. So some of the thought process behind that. The first draft bylaw we put out in 2021 actually proposed regulating 1 hectare or larger. So we did receive a lot of comments that a lot of people indicated that was probably too large, a lot of opposition to that. Staff still feel pretty strongly that half of an acre is a really small area to regulate. These areas are difficult to manage for forestry purposes, and when we do receive applications to clear areas that are half an acre or less, there's really, we haven't run into any instances where we would reject such an application. So even though we're looking at moving the regulation from 0.2 hectares up to 0.4 hectares, we also recognize that that doesn't mean all those smaller woodlands are just going to disappear off the landscape. Ultimately, it is still landowner decision based, and some of those areas are there for a reason. There's a dam hole, there may be a wet depression in the field that's just not worth clearing. So just because we're regulating a larger area, we don't anticipate that we're going to lose all those smaller patches of forest. With that said, we do feel the 1 acre is appropriate. It's worth regulating, and it is in keeping with the general purpose and intent of the bylaw. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2, there was some discussion brought forward with regards to tree fence rows. Tree fence rows is defined in the draft bylaw as being a linear formation of trees 20 meters or less in width that define a laneway boundary between fields or boundary between properties. So I've got some sample property up there on the screen that shows where we would classify areas as tree fence rows, and even and areas that would not meet that definition. So the areas highlighted in orange on the picture on the right are areas that we would define as tree fence rows, and they would not be regulated through the bylaw. Some of the discussion around that was recognizing that tree fence rows are important in mitigating wind erosion. They provide habitat and corridors for wildlife, and they may contain rare and threatened species. Despite that, the staff also recognized that maintenance, removal of these tree fence rows could be considered a normal farm practice under the Farming Food Production Protection Act. The current bylaw doesn't really speak to tree fence rows, although we do not currently regulate them. In this draft bylaw, we are looking to clearly define a tree fence row and how they are addressed in the bylaw. We are saying that a tree fence row being 20 meters or less in width will not be regulated. We're of the opinion that tree fence rows are separate from woodlands, and their management, including the installation and removal of such fence rows, would be considered a normal farm practice and would not be regulated under the bylaw. Issue number 3 is probably the most complex of all these issues and probably the one worth the most discussion. There is a section of the bylaw that speaks to exemptions. Included in that list of exemptions are a list of mandatory exemptions, which are mandated through the Municipal Act, such as, hydro transmission and distribution, and licensed pits or quarries are exempt, to name 2 examples. We're not going to focus on those. In the draft bylaw, we also are exempting landowners harvesting trees for their own use. We define that as being 11 cords or 20 trees within a calendar year. Trees that are dead are exempt. Exotic species are exempt. Trees that are less than 15 years of age and growing along the edge of a woodland are exempt, and normal farm practices are exempt. The one exemption that we have removed, that's in the current bylaw, but we're removing for the draft bylaw, is an exemption specific to building permits. So in the current bylaw, if a landowner was able to obtain a building permit, that building permit would provide an exemption for them to clear for the footprint of the building plus 15 meters, plus for their septic, plus for access to the property and any utilities needing to be provided to the property. That exemption does create a few discrepancies in our policy. Through that exemption, there is no real regard for natural heritage features, specifically significant woodlands that may be on the property. And in some cases where a landowner is required to make an application through the Planning Act, for example, for a consent or minor variance, something as simple as a severance on a property, those natural heritage features do trigger certain processes. So for example, if there was a significant woodland on the property, and that landowner is proposing to sever that property, that significant woodland does trigger the requirement for some environmental investigation on the property. This building permit exemption, so if they were not required to make any applications under the Planning Act, they'd automatically be exempt and they'd be able to clear for that building. Staff are of the opinion that building permits should be treated just like any other application for development or any other sort of proposal that's going to impact a natural heritage feature. So with that, we are looking at removing that exemption. There would still be a process where a landowner can apply to clear for such a building, but it would be in line with any other sort of process where a landowner is applying to clear forested land. So they would be required to apply for an exemption permit. That exemption permit would trigger a review of the area to be cleared. There may be an environmental impact study requested depending on the area. It could be within a significant woodland or other natural heritage feature. So by removing that exemption for the building permit, we are bringing the bylaw more in line with existing county policy, more specifically the official plan policy, section 3.52, which relates to natural heritage features. We do recognize that there are existing lots out in the rural landscape that may be entirely forested. They may be relatively small, and really the only practical use is going to be for residential use. We do acknowledge that, and that's why we have considered in the draft providing an exemption for lots that are 1 hectare or less. That's not included in the current draft bylaw, but that is something that could be considered. So rather than an exemption for a building permit, we would strictly be exempting lots that are under a specific size, and that would be open for discussion. But as it stands right now, we've removed it entirely and are saying that if you want to clear any woodland, regardless of the purpose, you would require an exemption permit. The next issue relates to harvest permit fees. So under the current bylaw, there is no fee for a harvest permit application. We've done a quick review of other municipalities, and for the most part, most municipalities do not charge a fee for harvest permit applications. We did find Brant County charges $100, Halton County charges $25.50, and York Region charges $25. Historically, the way harvest permit applications used to work in most municipalities is they were referred to as notice of intent, where a landowner would just provide notice to the municipality that they're going to be harvested, and it wasn't a whole review process. As these bylaws move towards harvest permit applications, and there is a bit of a review involved in processing the application, reviewing the proposed harvest, and then issuing a permit. Staff are of the opinion that there is probably opportunity there to recoup some of the administrative costs associated with reviewing and responding to harvest permit applications. So we are proposing a fee to be established in the draft bylaw. We haven't gone as far as to develop what that fee may be, but the intent would be to offset some of the review costs, administrative costs associated with reviewing the application, and we suspect it would be in the range similar to what Halton County or York Region has established around the $25 mark. Staff, we process probably anywhere in the range of 100 to 130 permits a year. So assuming 100 permits at a rate of $25, the municipality would bring in about $2,500, which would help offset those costs, those administrative costs. The fifth issue before us is with relation to exemption permits, and anyone who sat on the bylaw appeals committee may be familiar with these processes and the exemption permit process specifically. The way it runs in our current bylaw right now is if an application is made to the county, the bylaw officer reviews it. There's a circulation to adjacent owners, and if any objections are received on that application, the application is deferred immediately to the bylaw appeals committee for a decision. We're modifying that to some extent, saying that a bylaw officer actually has the discretion now to issue or deny a permit, regardless of any written correspondence. Obviously, the bylaw officer will consider all information before them, written correspondence, any studies that are submitted as part of the application. But at the end of the day, the bylaw officer will make the decision. And if the decision is to deny the permit, the applicant would always have the ability to appeal that to the bylaw appeals committee, and the bylaw appeals committee can then decide on the application. But we didn't want to get away from the application being pushed to the bylaw appeals committee right away, just on the premise that we received correspondence. We are of the opinion that a bylaw officer can consider that correspondence in their decision. And at the end of the day, the applicant's not going to be stonewalled if the application is denied. They still have that appeal to fall back on. So some of the discussion around this is, well, from a staff standpoint, sometimes these applications can be contentious, and having the decision fall onto one person is a little bit onerous. With that being said, we do appreciate council's time and the time that some of these applications can take up. We see anywhere between 5 to 10 of these a year. But there was discussion about potentially having either bylaw appeals committee decide on every application, or having these applications come before council for a decision. At the end of the day, we did decide that we would leave it to the one staff person, but we did want to include it in this discussion here, just in case there was differing opinions on council with regards to how applications for clearing forest should be considered, whether it's appropriate for one staff or whether it should be a committee or a council decision. Just quickly, the next step. So I'm hoping for some discussion on a few of these points today, but after this meeting, we are going to push the draft bylaw to legal review. So depending on the discussion today, we may be making some small modifications before going to legal review, but the intent would be to have the draft bylaw go under legal review and brought back before council. I've got March and April in my presentation. Realistically, we're probably looking more April, May by the time we get through the legal review process and prepare a report for council. But the intent would be to have something to council approximately around May for consideration. So that's why I brought forward these issues here today, just for some discussion to help sort of direct our final modifications to the draft bylaw. And with that, I will take any questions of council.
Thanks, Adam. Councilor Martin, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Chop. Through you to Adam, just a comment on your number 5 there, exemption permits. I would be, as a bylaw committee member, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's less of a drain on county resources for our bylaw staff to go ahead and make that decision, leaving the appeal option still open should the applicant wish to come forward. But I wanted to extend my support on specifically number 5.
Councillor Rabbits, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Biddle. Sorry, I'm just trying to lower my hand. Mr. Biddle, we have a lot of comments still circulating through public consultation. And my question is there a home for all of these comments? Are we posting something on our website? I know that when the County of Oxford had gone through a similar process, they basically established a web page where either stakeholders or concerned constituents could voice their opinion. Are we sort of moving past the point of consultation at this juncture, and we basically aggregated all the information we're looking for? Or is there still an opportunity to comment and perhaps post those comments publicly?
Thank you, Councillor Rabbits, and through the chair, through the mayor. I'd like to think we flushed out most of the pertinent comments. With that said, we do have a webpage dedicated to the forest bylaw review on our county website. On that page, you will find posted the original draft we circulated in early 2021. You'll see the draft bylaw version 2, which was just recently developed for the purpose of the stakeholder consultation meetings, and you'll see the current bylaw. We did have a lot of comments about, there's obviously interest amongst the community about what people are saying about the bylaw, what sort of comments were submitted. So I have developed a summary of the comments we received during that initial draft bylaw circulation. We weren't able to post those comments in their entirety to the county website, and in part just because of the way I collected the information. We didn't have an appropriate disclaimer on the request for comments to share necessarily all the information. There may be identifiable information within those comments that would identify an individual. So we do have a summary available, and we are going to get that posted to the website. We've also recorded a lot of the public consultation meetings that we're intending to post to the website. But with respect to receiving comments between now and between the time we bring a draft bylaw to council, I am definitely open to any discussion or any comments people have. They could send those directly to myself. I'm always open for the conversation and the one-on-one. And certainly, if there is something significant that comes of those discussions, we would make the appropriate modifications to the draft bylaw before coming to council. But again, I would like to think we've flushed most of those out, but never going to turn down a discussion or anything like that if it comes forward.
Thank you, Mr. Biddle, and through you, a secondary question, if I may. I think that my preference would be to utilize the Bylaw Appeals Committee a little bit more in making the decision. You made a very good point about having the onus on one staff member can be a little bit onerous and perhaps unfair and could lead to perceived conflict. Can you just flesh out a little bit more as to why that may be your recommendation and some of the benefits of having a body make the decision rather than putting all the onus onto one of our staff members?
Thanks, Councillor Robinson, through the mayor. So some of the thought process behind that, obviously I've been doing this job for quite a while, about 12 years, and doing this bylaw review, looking back at the numbers, you can easily see how many acres, we've approved for clearing, let's say, for the last 10 years. And it is not a small number. So annually, 1 to 2 acres, 3 acres, 4 acres here and there doesn't seem like much. But over the course of 10 years, I think when I did the draft bylaw, we were looking at about 80 something acres over the course of the last 10 years. So it is a lot for one person. And with that being said, the person, the bylaw officer that's in those positions, they are, typically experts in forestry, or at least trained in forestry. They are competent in making educated decisions with respect to this. But yeah, a lot of the thought process behind perhaps having a committee or council decide on those was to get away from the perceived conflict. Obviously, some of these decisions, they can be contentious. Not that it necessarily puts staff in a difficult position, but it does, you know, perhaps provide the illusion of there may be some conflict if it's just one person making the decision. So again, staff are in the draft bylaw. We are leaving it right now as it is one staff person making the decision, and there's opportunity for the applicant to appeal. But I did at least want to at least just have a discussion here today. If I don't hear any strong opposition to one bylaw officer making the decision, we'll leave it as is. But I did want council to at least be aware that the option is there to kind of change that process if they saw fit.
Good, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Van Passen, go ahead.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you to Mr. Biddle, I do have a few, so I will sort of follow your overview. Could you explain what is the provincial definition on the size of a woodlot to be regulated?
So the Municipal Act states that a municipality can regulate the injury destruction of trees in woodlands. And in that specific section of the Municipal Act, it does say woodlands is defined as in the Forestry Act, which would be an area of trees with so many trees per hectare and at least 1 hectare in area. Yeah. So by going by that clause, it's 1 hectare, and that's what's recognized in the Forestry Act. The Municipal Act further enables a single-tier municipality to regulate the injury or destruction of trees, period. So whether they're in a woodland or not. And that's where you typically see authorization for single-tier bylaws. You see that in a lot of the lower-tier municipalities and a lot of the cities where they regulate even individual trees on private property. Staff have looked at that and looked at other municipal forest bylaws and are of the opinion that because of that that clause, that a municipality may regulate the injury or destruction of trees, a municipality would be able to work outside of that woodlands definition and essentially sort of modify that to how they see fit. That will be part of the legal review before this comes back to council in a couple months.
Yeah, I just wanted to put your recommendation into context that the province considers anything less than 1 hectare is they don't worry about regulating, and we're looking at 0.4 of a hectare. You know, I don't see why we'd be different, but that's another thing. And can you also explain how a contiguous parcel, like if I have 1/10 of an acre, but I'm next door to a 50-acre woodlot, do you regulate that 1/10 of an acre even though it's on a separate piece of property, or is it measured on its own?
Through the mayor, so the woodlands are measured regardless of property boundaries. So even though you may only own 1/10 of an acre of that woodland, if the woodland is part of a larger tract of forest and it extends across property boundaries, we would define that woodland as the actual boundary of the woodland regardless of property lines. So that 1/10 of an acre on your property would still be regulated, yes.
Yeah, and that's, I do have a little bit of a problem with that concept, that the property lines and different ownership shouldn't, like, I shouldn't be regulated by what the neighbor does on my own property. So, you know, take that into consideration. The tree fence rows, I'm quite happy that you're actually defining them. You know, they were put there for a reason and a purpose, the majority, well, all of the time. Especially with the wind erosion problems we had here 100 years ago. There's a reason they're out there. And, you know, I've always looked at the difference between a fence row and like a forest or tree corridor, let's say, where, you know, the original trees were still there because it never got cleared 300 years ago because of the geographic feature of whether it's a low area or anything. So I'm glad you're defining that. The exemptions on a building lot. You know, I don't like adding more layers of regulation, but that's what we're doing. You know, once you have a building permit, doesn't that sort of shift it out of a woodlot area or woodland area into a development area? Because otherwise you wouldn't get the building permit. And where would you need to ask for that exemption? Because I would hate to have to send people down to apply for a building permit that actually costs a lot of money, and then have them find out that, oh, we can't let you build there because there's a tree there, but you don't get your money back that you just paid for the building permit. So, like, I would much prefer that we leave that one alone. And, you know, if you get a building permit, that automatically grants you, and it is quite clearly defined in the existing bylaw, what distance you can clear trees and where you can clear them. It's not a matter of that you can just clear cut the entire lot just because you got a building permit for a shed that's 150 square feet. So I would much prefer that we leave that current exemption in place. And if the majority do not support that, at least define, like, maybe you got to get the exemption before you apply for the building permit, not the other way around. And the grandfathering clause, if you're able to do that, then you might as well just leave the whole thing alone, right? So, and I think a couple of other councillors have also mentioned about the exemption permit process, that the appeals committee, again, it seems like the natural place to get some consistency, and not put the onus on one person. You might as well have individuals mad at a group of people instead of just one. So, but those are my comments at this time. And, well, I should make one more, that I've sat in on quite a few of the public meetings that you've had, and you've gotten a lot of comments from a lot of different areas, and I think you've put a lot of sweat into this, so hopefully we will see the final end result in the next couple of months, and thanks for all the work you've done so far. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Columbus, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Adam, you will note that in the last January 19th Agriculture Advisory Board meeting, there's a statement in there that written representation to council will be coming regarding the forestry bylaw update. And I've spoken with some of the members today, and they are putting together their thoughts on paper to be sent to you and council with respect to the Agriculture Advisory Board's thinking on this. And I can tell you, from what I've been hearing, you've been before our committee twice, I believe, already. They are in keeping with the Forestry Act of 1 hectare in size is what they want to see, include in keeping with that. So that's one thing, Adam. And if you could hold off on sending this to legal until you get the Ag Advisory Board's comments, would be appreciated. The other thing is the question about normal farm practice that was raised by the deputation. Can you share with us? I thought that was an Ontario government ruling, the normal farm practice, rather than a municipal regulation. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so through the mayor to Councillor Columbus, the normal farm practices definition is a definition that you would find in the Farming Food Production Protection Act, which is a provincial act, and it's obviously related more to agriculture. So you see normal farm practices usually referenced in a number of cases where a municipal bylaw may come in conflict with an agricultural operation. It's not specific to forest bylaws. It could pertain to any number of bylaws, noise bylaws, anything along those lines. We've opted to include it in the forest bylaw because at the end of the day, that I'm not going to necessarily call it an exemption, but that there is a provincial act that states a municipal bylaw cannot impede on a normal farm practice. So for that reason, I didn't see any harm in including it in our forest bylaw, as it does provide better clarity that, you know, the bylaw does not impact a normal farm practice. There's still always the issue that normal farm practices are not defined. There's not a set list of normal farm practices, and normal farm practices is going to be different from area to area. So there is a little bit of ambiguity in that regards. But at the end of the day, it is existing in other provincial legislation. It doesn't hurt to highlight it in the forest bylaw so that people are aware that there are certain activities that would be considered a normal farm practice and may be exempt. We still welcome the open dialogue from landowners if they're confused about normal farm practices or want to have an open discussion about what the municipality may see as a normal farm practice. We can always try and work through it proactively, but then at the end of the day, we do see that in existing provincial legislation, so we've included it in our bylaw as well.
Certainly, I agree. Thanks, Adam.
Councilor Shelley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Adam. Adam, I think most of my other questions have been asked by my colleagues, but I just want to go back to the question of the appeal of a decision and the concern that it's being made by one individual bylaw officer. And then the suggestion is that perhaps the bylaw appeals committee would hear all applications. I guess first, what would you just estimate, because you have a lot of experience with this, what would you estimate would be the number of such applications or the frequency of them in a given year?
Through the Mayor, Councilor Michelle, I would say we see anywhere between 4 and 10 on an average year. So a particularly busy year, you could be inundated once a month or close to it with such applications. On a slow year, you're probably bi-monthly or less. So.
Okay, thank you, Adam. And I'm just wondering if I might suggest then, because that number could eventually be a bit overwhelming for what is a relatively small committee. And the current practice, of course, as you know, is that the Bylaw Appeals Committee only hears appeals of that bylaw forestry officer's decision. Would there be a possible sort of middle road there or middle ground where the officer makes a decision and it's perhaps reviewed by a supervisor, perhaps someone like yourself, or perhaps by Mr. Cridland or somebody in a supervisory position, so that it is not, the onus is not just on one person's judgment, but it would be a little bit of a compromise between having every single application go to the Bylaw Appeals Committee. I'm just curious of what you think about that.
Thank you, and through the Mayor, Councilor Michelle, that is a good point. And I use the Bylaw Appeals Committee as an example of a committee that may see these. I think if you were to look internally at the actual function of the Bylaw Appeals Committee, it may not be the best suited to review the application right off the hop, as it is an appeals committee, not necessarily a decision-making outside of an appeal. So it does cause some complications when you just have these applications come right to the Bylaw Appeals Committee without an actual appeal and a fee being paid. So the Bylaw Appeals Committee may not be the best example, but council, for example, would be another option. Other areas use the Committee of Adjustment as an example. I do like the idea that we could change wording in the bylaw to state that such applications are approved by the general manager of operations, which would then put the approval process a little bit up the ladder. And doing such would obviously provide maybe a little more security or get away from that perception of a conflict of interest for the officer. So that's not a bad idea.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adam. I appreciate that. And thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
Councilor Vanden Rishi, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. I have a few questions. I have some concerns. The bylaw that existed, I always say to myself, if it's not broken, why fix it? But there was a few little things that needed to be tweaked, but here we're getting into quite a bit. I believe that that we should make sure that we have a bylaw that has respect for all those parties that have woodlots, such as the farmers, such as the industry, such as everything else. I'm worried that we're more of an enforcement, and I don't like that idea. I'd like to know from you, how often do you go in if, say, a permit has been given and there's been an issue, a minor issue? How many times do you go in and do you have say, for instance, if we take farmers for an example, you go in and you start to consult with the farmers and tell them what's wrong and how we can fix it, rather than that you're right away for enforcement. How does that work?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Der Rishi, I would say, and I could probably speak more general to Norfolk in general, bylaw enforcement, yeah, there's two trains of thought. There's the actual enforcement, and then there's getting compliance. So I would say with our forest bylaw, we do try to use it more as an educational tool. And our main objective is to seek compliance, not necessarily come down with a heavy hand. So quite often, actually, we're called out to instances where landowners, maintaining trees along the edge of a woodland, for example, along a ditch. And the perception is for passersby or neighbors that they're clearing. So it's not uncommon for us to show up to a property, meet with the contractor that's on site, meet with the landowner, and just review the work that's being done. And oftentimes, they're not necessarily infringing on the bylaw, but there is opportunity if they were to go further that they would. So we try to use the bylaw as an educational tool where we can. And in minor instances where maybe they have encroached in the woodland a little bit, oftentimes just showing up, having that discussion with them, getting them to stop is generally enough for us to seek prosecution. In a lot of instances, we're looking at a Part 1, we're issuing a summons. We don't have ticketable offenses, so if we are laying charges under the forest bylaw, it is a process and it is an expense. So we try to be practical with where we come down with laying charges.
Yes, I'm wondering if it's not better to have a fine system that instead of taking farmers to court or whatever, upsetting everybody and whatever, that there would be a fine system. I think would be something to look at. But I'm going to go through your issues from the beginning. I too believe that the size of the woodlot to be regulated, it should be a hectare, because I think why be different from the province? The treed fence line, these fence lines, I think should be off limits for one thing, because farmers planted them for an issue, and now times are changing. They were planted in essence when they were growing crops such as tobacco, and when you grow crops as tobacco, you don't want windburn and all those kind of things that occur. If you're growing grain crops such as corn or beans, you want a big open field because the equipment today is so big. So I think that should be left up to normal farm practices, and I would like that to be retained. As far as harvesting permits, your $25 fine, I can understand that, but I have another issue with the property adjacent. If I have a property and my woodlot is very small and it's adjacent to another property such as a municipal bush or another private bush, I think I should be considered where my property line should be my property line. I don't like the idea that you contain it as an entire woodlotted area and then take that, use that against me, so to speak. So I don't like that. We had Mr. Winkler that I think sent you an email, and there's some indications that he had some concerns there too. I do respect Mr. Winkler. Over his years, he's been a great resource for the forestry sector. I'm wondering if you could take those things that he's written and take them under consideration. I just would like cooperation, trust, and respect here. I'm very, very concerned we're taking a bylaw when we should have maybe taken the bylaw and tweaked it, as far as now making so many changes. And I also believe that the bylaw appeals committee should be the approachable committee. So anyway, with that, I'm not sure that your bylaw is up to snuff, in my opinion, but I know you have some time to look at it, and I'll make correspondence with you later. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Van Der Rishi. Councillor Taylor, go ahead.
Just like to throw in there that I also agree that the bylaw appeals committee should be that destination for these, as well as I am in agreement that these smaller portions of a larger woodlot, I don't think they should count as a whole piece. They can get into some pretty tricky situations for someone that does own just a small portion of a woodlot. I'm just curious, is that provincially regulated, or do we have control over that?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, are you speaking specifically about the property lines defining the boundaries of a woodland, or?
That's correct.
Yeah, so the Forestry Act doesn't speak specifically to property lines. It just says, and typically, if we were to define woodlands based on property lines, that does have some pretty far-reaching effects. You could have large portions of woodland considered not woodland under the bylaw simply because of the way that land is divided by property. So it would have very far-reaching effects, and I would caution council on taking that approach. Obviously, our land is divided pretty intensively in Southern Ontario, and you do end up with a lot of smaller parcels that would fall under that 1 hectare or even 1 acre for woodland. So it's very difficult, and it does create some problems. So it's much cleaner and I would say more appropriate to define woodland actually by its ecological boundary rather than the property lines.
Well done, Councillor Taylor. Thanks, thanks, Adam. Just a couple comments. I think most of my colleagues, especially the farmers in the group, have kind of covered some of my concerns. And I think, one of the challenges, because you hold certain views, you're automatically, pinned with not caring about the preservation of our woodlots. And I don't think that's at all the case. I think we all recognize that they support jobs in our local timber industry, the recreational activities that they offer, let alone the enormous environmental benefits, not just for Norfolk County, but for, our country and the world at large. But at the same time, I also respect personal property rights of individuals. And, when I look at, maybe you can even answer this for me, I know Norfolk County has something like 3,400 acres alone that we own of woodlots. I'm curious what Nature Conservancy has amassed over the years here. And, obviously we've got LPRCA that holds lands, woodlots as well. And so at the end of the day, it does become, although it's a great, it's a laudable effort and goal, it does become a bigger burden on local taxpayers. So when I see things like removing the building permit exemption as one, I'm sort of confused, because we're proposing, and I think my colleagues are right, Councillor Van Riesche, Councillor Klump, or Councillor Van Passen, we should be looking at the provincial standard there with the hectare. But if your proposal even is is an acre, that would not be regulated or less, why would we remove the building permit exemption? Like what building is an acre in size?
So through the mayor, so for clarification, the regulation of the woodland would be for standalone. So an isolated standalone woodland that's 1 acre or larger would be regulated. If you were proposing to build in a woodland that's larger than an acre, even if you were proposing to clear less than an acre, that would still be regulated through the bylaw because it is part of that larger woodland. So it's not to say that you can clear an acre, say, annually. It is really just the size of the woodland itself.
But you can see the balance there. This individual is allowed to take down an acre woodlot. This individual has come into Norfolk County to apply for a garage, and he has to go through an extra layer of bureaucracy, which is the very thing that this council campaigned on almost exclusively, of reducing red tape in Norfolk County. We can barely get permits processed as it is, and now we're going to add another cost and another layer for people to go through. That I absolutely, I won't support when that comes forward. As far as the treed fence rows go, I'm curious. I think they're great. I like for all the reasons that you articulated. The problem is that by putting this in there, when we didn't have it previously, we're punishing the farmers that have those treed fence rows when they, for whatever purposes, may wish to remove them. But we're not actually doing anything to encourage all the farmers that don't have treed fence rows to plant trees or follow that practice or so on. So all the farmers that don't have treed fence rows, what would be their motivation to ever plant a fence row in the future, lest if they ever want to remove it down the road, they would have to be subject to come in for a fee and an approval and so on and so forth. So again, adding a layer of bureaucracy to people that are doing a good thing. And for the most part, farmers aren't out there cutting down all their treed fence rows. But for the odd guy, like Councillor Van Riesche that said, for a change in their agricultural crop that may necessitate the need to remove that fence row, why should they be burdened by an additional layer when the other farmer that never bothered to plant them in the first place doesn't have to go through that hurdle? And I guess, you know, one of the things, certainly I think the other councillors have already touched on the contiguous property issues. But the other one, I'm sort of curious because, and I think this comes up with Mr. Winkler's material, and this is sort of some of the concerns that I'm hearing elsewhere in terms of the good forestry practices versus the minimum circumference standards, yet that's not coming up as an issue to be dealt with. So I'm just curious why that didn't make the list of top issues for you, and that's clearly what I'm hearing locally is one of the biggest issues that we're facing with this proposed bylaw change.
Thank you. Through the mayor, with respect to the actual like circumference limit versus good forestry practices, I'm pretty sure we ironed out most of those issues with the last draft. And when we met with forest industry and those who are most impacted by those changes, they seem to be pretty receptive of what we brought forward with the good forestry practices approach. The big difference in the approach that Norfolk took in this case versus other areas with the good forestry is a lot of other areas say if you're doing good forestry practices, you have to be a forester or you have to have a certain designation to do so. We don't have that requirement in our bylaw. We're treating all harvests the same. A logger, a log buyer, a landowner can mark their bush according to the bylaw standards, and it would still be acceptable. So I think we resolved most of those issues, which is why I didn't bring it forward. And you can get bogged down by a lot of the technical terms and discussion when it comes to that. But between forest industry, I think we had that ironed out.
Okay, I hope so, because like I said, that's still some of the grumbling that I'm hearing out in the community is over that point. So I guess we'll see more when the Agricultural Advisory Board comes forward, as well as some of our local loggers. But again, I think that this council has strived throughout the campaign. The goal here was reducing layers of bureaucracy, not increasing it, and looking to provincial standards as opposed to municipal standards that far exceed those provincial standards. And again, I'm a supporter of our woodlots. I love our trees. I think there's enormous benefits that are offered by them. But I don't think relaxing some of these measures to meet provincial standards or going above and beyond what we already have even is necessary at this point. Any further questions from council? Otherwise, I'll get a mover and seconder to receive his information. Councillor Van Passen, thanks, and seconded by Councillor Michelle. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Adam, for joining us. And with that, then I think we're just going to immediately move into closed session, Teresa, if I'm not mistaken. Peter's or external legal is available?
That's correct. If I can just, if it's okay with you, just before we go into closed session, I will be requesting that we deal with 7.2 first in closed session. I'd like to advise that the CAO Al Meneses will not be joining us for that item. We'll deal with 7.2 first, and then we'll bring Al into closed session and deal with the remainder of the items.
Thanks, Teresa. Sorry, I'm just looking for the motion for closed here.
Should be page 4 of your chair notes. Otherwise, if you'd like, I could read it for you.
It's okay. I got it there. Thanks. All right. So for closed session items, 7.1, the Ontario Land.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Steven.
And we are
Norfolk County's Digital Service Squad.
We're here to let you know that Digital Main Street is offering 3 unique ways to help small businesses right here in Norfolk County. The first limited time program is the Digital Service Squad. We're traveling all across Norfolk County to help small businesses with their digital strategies by offering free assessments and consultations. The Digital Transformation Grant. This $2,500 grant is available to qualified Norfolk County businesses who are looking to achieve their digital goals. We're instructing all interested businesses to act fast as the deadline to apply is October 31st. The grant application window is open now and all entries are reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis. Don't miss out on this great opportunity. Apply now. Digital Main Street has also extended their Shop Here program. This amazing initiative creates online stores for independent small businesses and artists at no cost. Find us on Facebook or send us an email at digitalmainstreet@norfolkcounty.ca.
Hey, Benny. Working hard or hardly working?
Ho, ho, ho. Very funny. I tell ya, I had enough with peppermint.
Well, what do you say I bust you out of candy cane duty, we head back to Norfolk County, and you help me get the gifts on this list?
What list?
This list.
Whose list is this?
This list?
That list.
What does it matter whose list it is? It's a list full of gifts. And as elves, it is our duty to get the gifts on this list.
Well, have you checked it twice?
What do you mean if I... Let's just go.
Okay, Norfolk's a big county, so we're gonna have to move fast if we want to get every gift on this list. Extra virgin olive oil from the barrel. A Christmas doormat from Nifty Gifting Norfolk. Wait, can't you just order these at shopnorfolk.ca?
Yeah, but don't you just love a road trip?
Okay, first stop, Port Dover. Here we'll grab mint fudge from Coco Cabana, handcrafted earrings from Cabin 509, and an Oxygeno superfacial from Magnolia Metaspa.
Now that's an elfful. I don't know. I was looking for something with more bells and tinsel.
Yeah, it needs more blingle.
How about a pair of Christmas socks? Does that add enough blingle?
Blingle all the way! In Simcoe, we'll grab Norfolk barbecue sauce from Sloth and Molasses, guitar strings from Eerie Music.
VG bacon from VG Meats.
Bacon. Can you believe they had this in the fiction section?
It should be in true crime. Santa was clearly breaking and entering. Jackpot! What the elf? Waterford has such an eclectic range of shops.
Yeah, and they're all so different too.
Welcome to Brush Designs, ground zero for all your Christmas shopping. In fact, it's a little like a Christmas bomb went off in here.
Jeez, I hope no one was hurt. Minor Brothers dog food? Check.
Hey, what's that?
Yeah, it's a dwarf mini horse. That's as big as they'll get.
Kind of like you, Benny.
No, Pixie, I'm regular size. You're the colossal giant.
Not around here, Benny. Not around here. Next up, Port Rowan, home of the shops along the shore.
This is where we'll pick up an antique vase from Franny's Attic, leggings from Sheer Creations, and a handbag from Cheshire's On Bay. You know, there's something about this list.
Hey, Ben, let's take some Alfies.
finally, Delhi, where we'll find toys for kids.
And toys for big kids too. Did you get the gift certificates for the extensions?
Gift certificate? Well, that's it for the list.
Wait, I want to add something to the list.
You can't just add to the list. It's an official gift list. Wait, is this your list?
Whose list?
This list. Is this your list of gifts? As in gifts for yourself?
Candy canes. Check the flavor. Bacon? Bacon.
Find uniquely perfect gifts right here in Norfolk County, both in-store and online at shopnorfolk.ca. Merry Christmas and happy holidays from your local businesses.
Welcome to episode 7 of Passionate Folks. This is a blog and video series about the people who live right here in Norfolk. I sit down with them, have a conversation, ask them about their stories, their passions. I'm excited to present the next guest. Welcome to Passionate Folks. I'm Emily. I love to ask questions and get to know people better. Today I'm here with Dan. Hey Dan.
Hey there, how are you?
Great.
Excellent.
Maybe you stop by for coffee?
Yeah, well, nice of you to have me. I'm really delighted.
So we already had a good chat, but for people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit more about you, where you live, and what you do?
Yeah. My name's Dan Fewings, and I was a Simcoe boy, an SCS grad growing up. From 0 to 18, I lived in Simcoe. And then I think I lived in Brantford for a year, lived in Dover for a bit, and then followed a gal up north to Peterborough, or Lindsay, and I ended up spending 28 years there teaching high school. Loved every minute of it, a bunch of different experiences. And when I retired in 2014, I thought, my ma's not doing so well down there. It's going to need some attention. And also followed a friend here, and bingo. And now I live just outside of Simcoe, in between Simcoe and Victoria on Highway 24.
Great, I'm so glad you took time to have this little chat. I want to go know more about you today, and I'm going to have you asking some questions.
Yeah.
But first I ask you to pick a spot that means something to you in Norfolk. So maybe start by telling us where we are and why you picked this place.
Well, I love this place, not only for the food, although in my new machination I'm more careful what I eat, so I only have one crepe a week. But I love this place because Jim and Penny, the owners, are good friends. They've hired me to play here. They give the artists freedom to be a little zany here. They're good to their staff. They run a good ship. And I love the outside in the summer. It's rocking. They do a great job getting lots of music in. I think they have music all July, August, and September, like a whack of things. And I also, a few neat experiences sort of got born out here. I have a character, I do the song chef, and they were like the first ones to say, oh, you've got to come in and do it. So.
I love what you're talking about. Like, you're involved in so many things into your retirement that you seem to really enjoy the art. Is that the main thing you're passionate about, or?
Well, I like joy spreading, and the most rewarding thing I think I do is my gal Rosie and I, after we had a trip to Newfoundland, and after I did a tour of Newfoundland, we picked up on the kitchen party notion, and so we have a little duet called the Kitchen Party Orchestra, and we go to the seniors' homes and the respite center in Hagersville and Simcoe, and we give them, the folks there, instruments to play with us, so they're part of it, they're getting some exercise, and like that is joy spreading 101.
So spent a lot of time away from Norfolk, decided to come back to Norfolk in your retirement. So tell me, like, if you don't have a gig, if you're not involved in something, like, what do you do to hang out, to relax? Where do you like to go?
Well, I love the geography, so I always like going down to one of the many shores, while there still exist.
Yes, Port Mercy's a little small this year.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. I love, and
are you a beach guy, or?
Not in the summer, I'm not, but I am, sort of going to the water for answers kind of a guy. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The Leonard Cohen dimension. And so Long Point was always like hugely special as a kid, you know? I spend a lot of time at the Simcoe Little Theater. That's a great organization, and they're doing fun and they're welcoming, and so I'm gonna play coming up that I'm doing, and
You don't seem to have too much downtime, like you seem to keep pretty busy.
keeps me out of the housework, that's for sure.
Out of the older.
Yeah. He's all busy, making some ass right now, you know, sewing, you know.
Yeah.
And so.
Is it hard to get artists to come and play here, or are they curious about wanting to see Norfolk and see what this is
and you know
about,
what? Like more people, like house concerts are amazing too. Like and I was never a musician on the road. I did 2 1-month tours with a student, and I had a buddy of mine, Jimmy Boskill, who was a student of mine. He said, "When you retire, we're going on tour." My son is in a band, the May Hemingways, so he traveled lots east. So he booked us from Peterborough to Newfoundland, 24 gigs and 26 nights. Both, you know, but you make, you know, as a musician, you make way more at a house concert and play more concerty, less with people listening. People love to play, right? So oftentimes people think you need the applause as much as you need the money. And many people are lined up. So it's like, you don't want to do it? That's okay. I've got Tiny Talent Time and his brother here that'll play for you, you know? And so people, that's why it's so nice to be in a place like this where you know that their entertainment budget is a really significant amount of money. And there are a lot of places in town here. The 211 does it as well. Even the Norfolk has a whack of music, and it's getting bigger around here with all the, you know, with the craft beer industry, the wine industry. All those places are looking for some entertainment to get their clients in. So I think it's, you know, it's going to be significant. It's just a tricky game.
So music, obviously a big part of your life?
It is a big part of my life, yeah. I think I started when I was 13. My brother handed me a John Prine album, the very first one with him sitting on the hay bale and a guitar, and showed me the C, F, and G chords, and I never had a lesson after that.
You just learn on your own?
I just learned on my own. Guitar has, and stringed instruments often have tablature. Yep. Especially ones that have frets, so it's a grid really, so they can like, it's easy on notation to put a number 1 on a 1, you know you're in the first, so it's an easier system. But what happened was I was working in the teachers union. I had been seconded out of teaching for a couple of years. The head of music was leaving to become a minister, and he said, Dan, can you teach kids how to play guitar? And I said, absolutely. And I said, now Larry, you know I don't read music, right? And, you don't? And I said, no, but I'll buy tablature. So at any rate, made it work. And down the road it was funny because Jimmy Boskill, who was a wizard player, doesn't read music either. He had auditioned for this art school, and I was sitting, they weren't going to let him in because he didn't read music. And I said, I should let you folks know, as you know, I don't read music. And I said, if you're not letting this kid into the program, give me 2 weeks notice, because I'm not going to be the guitar teacher that wouldn't take him in. So you got to keep it moving.
Is that one of your favorite instrument? Like?
Yeah, this is, it's a Latin instrument. It comes from like the Andes, so Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Chile. It's usually used in like, but then I found, being sort of a folky dokey player too, it's like a good bluegrass instrument too, and it's like in the day and age of cutbacks, when the bluegrass bands start firing the banjo player and the mandolin player, you get both with one.
You show up with this one, you're good at drumming gig.
That's right.
Perfect.
And this is a charango, and it is higher up, so I started with one of these. And I'm a big fella, so it's, you know, and you don't need a strap that sticks right in your belly button. Like you couldn't peel that off with a crowbar.
All right, so you do some improv.
I do. So like, give me a title to a song never before written. It can be anything.
Let's go with the Bikini Crepe, I guess.
Bikini Crepe?
We're here, the Crepe House.
Well, it's more appropriate on a day like today to not sing about martini. So let's think while we're in the land of sand about a crepe martini. No pina colada beside you now. No, it's done somehow. Here comes customer now. He's probably gonna order the crepe bikini. Now the thing about the bikini crepe, it's teeny weeny. It's how they make. I'm not sure if it's a Speedo sauce, but it's nice all the same. Ah, it's teeny weeny, but it's my favorite, that old crepe bikini. Yes, sirree, I think he's making me one now. And it might be true that you can't wait for your bikini crepe, but that's okay. Got time on my hands. Right on.
All right, cheers, Sam.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining me. Have a coffee. That was
Absolutely.
awesome.
Right on.
Love it.
Good. Thank you very much. Great. See you later. Thanks, Drew.
Great,
guys. No, it's not possible. No, I cannot tell you what to say.
I am Tom Pursley. I work at Titan Trailers. I manage the shop and design, build, program robot cells on the floor to hand off to operators to build trailer components and assemblies. I knew I always wanted to work with my hands growing up as a kid. I never wanted to be stuck behind an office doing paperwork for the rest of my life, and it really interests me to build something and see the final result when you're done.
My name's Angela Simon and I work for Annex Business Media. We are a trade magazine publisher. We produce 65 trade magazines for a diverse industries, so everything from aviation to firefighting to design engineering, manure. We have a very diverse set of magazines that we produce. I'm the production manager and I oversee the creative department in 2 divisions in Simcoe and in Toronto. We have 14 designers that lay out and design the magazines. When I started in this industry probably 26 years ago, everything was hand done. Now everything's so automated, done on the computers, and that's probably been the biggest change for me.
My name's Phil Wiersma and I work for Rasson Services. We're an industrial contracting company, so we do some custom fabrication and mechanical and electrical installations and repairs. We've built large pump skids for the oil sands out west. We've done some major factory overhauls and expansions. We do some fairly large jobs for a fairly small company. I've always liked to take things apart and put them back together, and so this is just another stepping stone.
My name is John Brock Picard. I'm 20 years old and I work at Ramblin' Road Brewery Farm. Here we make 8 different kinds of Picard's Extreme Kettle Chips. It's all on one line. The potatoes come in from the farm and we put them in through the hopper. They get cleaned and they go through a grading table where I inspect them and cut off all the rotten spots, pick out the bad ones. And then they go through up to the cutter. They're cut into kettle chip size and they're fried and salted. I guess the best part about my job would be the sampling. When the fresh potato chips come off the line, nothing beats them.
I think young people should be strongly considering a career in manufacturing. Skilled trades, there's always going to be a large demand for that, and they're high-paying jobs. The actual job is getting better as the new technologies come into play.
The skills you need to do my job would be definitely graphic design, computer skill. If you have any kind of video or inclination to do video or any of that kind of stuff, or web design, that's also a huge asset for what we do.
I would say if you like to take things apart and put things back together, or build things from scratch, or if you have even a creative mind, manufacturing is a good way to go.
Welcome to Passionate Folks, a blog and video series where I'll be highlighting people from Norfolk County who have a passion, who are involved in our community, who are the movers and shakers. So I'm excited to introduce every month somebody new from Norfolk that will bring you their story, their passion, and share it all with us. Come on in. All right, welcome to the first episode of Passionate Folks. I'm Emily, and I love to dig in people's life and getting to know more about them. I'm here with Jess today. Thanks, Jess, for showing up.
Thank you for having me. This
Yes.
is so exciting.
So just for the people that don't know you, introduce yourself, tell me a little bit more about you and the person that you are.
Sure. Well, my name's Jess, and I grew up in Waterford, more specifically Boston, more specifically Bill's Corners. I'm a passionate Norfolk advocate. I love this area. I love theater, I love music, I love anything arts related. Also a passionate advocate for entrepreneurs in the area.
So I invited you to pick a location in Norfolk that meant something to you. So tell us where we are and why you picked this place.
All right, we are here in Simcoe Little Theater. It's on the corner of Talbot and Yonge in downtown Simcoe. And this place, Simcoe Little Theater, is a very special place to me. I spent most of my life in these walls, on that stage, behind the stage, in these seats, like everywhere in this space. It's something that theater is something that's like has always been a big part of my life since I was about 8 years old.
You mentioned to me that you also in high school, you were really involved into the drama program and all that, so.
I had walked the halls of my high school and I had seen so many pictures on the wall of different shows they had done throughout the years, but nobody was doing shows anymore. And I was like really bummed about that. So in grade 10, me and my girlfriends, we roped all our moms in. We were like, if we start doing high school shows, like, will you guys help? Will you make costumes? Will you whatever? And they all jumped in.
Involved.
Yeah.
I love that, right? Like, that's a small community, like,
that's
everybody
it.
coming in together.
And like, that's what it requires, right? Like, a show is like a mini village coming together, like making all the pieces happen.
So this community, I think the word, like, you keep repeating it, and I think what you're creating in Groundswell is that sub-community within the community, and that really stands out. So would you say this is something that you're really passionate about?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes, that connection,
totally.
Right? Yeah.
I just think like community is everything. We're not meant to live life alone. I don't think. And I don't mean like you have to necessarily have a romantic partner to live a life, but just have people around you that get you. That you don't have to explain yourself. You know what I mean? You just walk in the room and they're happy to see you. That's it.
That's always such a good feeling. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, like you just have those people that, believe in you too, right?
Yeah.
And just cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So I see, Jess, you're always involved in this community, like you're volunteering places, you really want this place to grow and thrive, and so why Norfolk, and what do you love so much about this place?
Oh man, I think, yeah, it's a really good question. It's a combination of things. I think the geography that we live in, the nature we have around us, that is a huge benefit of being in Norfolk, but it's also the people here. And that's why I'm so obsessed with community, because we have so many beautiful people who live here with ideas, with talents, with love and vision. And I think that's what excites me, is like, just because we're a small town doesn't mean we have small ideas or small impact.
I want to bring some of the music piece, because I know we've been talking a lot about the theater and acting, but I know that music is so important to you.
Yes.
And a big part of your life.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about your maybe influences and what makes you feel alive in music.
Just like theater, I love performing music too. There's something really cool about being on stage like that. Before I came here today, I was like thinking about how alive I feel when I'm on stage. And I think that everyone kind of looks for that thing that makes them feel alive. Yeah. So for me, it's that.
Awesome. So I thank you so much, Jess, for taking the time to meet with me. There's going to be more feature of passionate, uplifting community people through this little video series. So keep watching. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Oh my God. This is so much fun.
Awesome. Welcome to Passionate Folks, a blog and video series about the people that live in Norfolk, people that are passionate, people that are involved in their community, people that bring a lot of positivity. This is about story and conversation. Join us for the second guest. Welcome to episode 2 of Passionate Folks. I'm Emily. I love to ask questions, learn about people, get some connections. I'm here with Carrie today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been chatting with you and I got to know you a little bit more, but for folks that don't know you, maybe introduce yourself.
My name is Carrie Boakholm. I live here in Waterford. I've lived here for over 15 years. I'm married. I got 2 kids, and I just love the community.
From our conversation today, there's a lot of the community word showed up quite a few times. So
I'm a believer of, when I moved into Waterford, I thought, wow, it's, you know what, if we get involved, then you learn so much more and you meet so many different people. I mean, people that I know if I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yes. So I asked you to pick a location, Carrie, and so tell us where we are and why you picked it.
I picked the Waterford Heritage Agriculture Museum, WHAM, because in a couple summers we will be building our skateboard park here. So it's kind of a let's do it. Not that I wore the shirt or anything, but yes, this will be our future location on the other side.
Talking about passion and passionate people, what do you think your passion is?
My passion is youth. I love kids. You know what? There's no such thing as a bad kid. Kids make bad decisions. And as the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I truly believe that, you know what? We give kids, that opportunity and show them that we support them and that, that we're there for them and they'll make the right decisions.
I made a stop at her business. She has a business downtown Waterford, and I was seeing that your family works there, your friends, your best friend is...
My best friend is with me. Both best friends, yes.
So this tight-knit community feel is really important.
When I was given my dream and somebody said to me, here, I'll help you, create your dream. And I thought, okay, karma. So this is somebody saying to me, it's my opportunity to use this to give back. If I have a restaurant, nobody should be hungry. I want kids to feel like they can come in and say, I need something or I need a drink or, whatever. I've been doing this for 30 years and the kids that I trained 30 years ago still come back to find me. And they come back and they tell me what they've been doing. And I guess the biggest thing is people don't realize sometimes the simplest thing can change a kid's life.
It is a ripple effect, don't you think?
It is, you know what? And I mean, so I get to see their, I feel old when I start seeing them coming with their kids. And I start seeing, that they've gone through and they're going to university or they're doing this or they've done this or done that. And that makes me feel like, I had a piece of that. Just by being involved in their life, maybe I made a little bit of a difference.
So you're an entrepreneur, you're super involved in the community, you're a mom, you have a lot on the go. So if I ask you, what do you do to de-stress and let go?
I like to go to the gym. I like to, boot camp, yoga. I try to take, a few hours a week for me.
Yes.
And it's just about me. And I honestly think anybody who's really busy, I think needs to learn. It took me 48 years to figure it out. But
never too late.
Never too late. As I said, I can go to the gym and I can be having the world's hardest day, and I always say I leave it on the mat.
Love.
So when I walk out of there, I feel like a completely, totally different person. Leave it on the mat.
So other than that, when you're in Norfolk, what else do you love to do? What's your favorite spot or place that you like to visit or something you love to do?
Love to go on the trails. I love going fishing on the ponds. Waterford, we have so many little places to go and see and do and
what's
stuff.
happening in this community?
You know what, there is. And I mean, the thing is we don't really, I laugh because there's so many of us who don't see what's here. They're right here. Whistling Gardens, Bonnie Heath. We have all the wineries and stuff. The museum. There's so many places to go. You can have a staycation without leaving Norfolk.
Yes. So thank you so much, Carrie, for joining me today and being part of this blog and video series. I invite you to check it on. Every month there will be somebody new, a new story, a new connection. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to Passionate Folks, a vlog and video series about the people of Norfolk. People that are involved in our community, people that bring a lot of energy. So this is about a conversation, this is about their story. So welcome to episode 3. Welcome to Passionate Folks. I'm Emily. I love to dig in people's lives, ask questions, and learn about people's passion. Today I'm here with Adam. Hi, Adam.
Hi, how are you doing, Emily?
Great. I'm happy that you're here, taking the time to sit down with me today. So I've known you for a little bit, small community, but people that don't know you. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
So my name's Adam Van Passen. I grew up here in Norfolk County. I was born onto a farm and I got to work on that farm growing up, which was a great learning experience. From a young age, I got to understand what hard work was and what it was to be close to nature. So that was very cool for me. Growing up like that, my dad also was a counselor for Haldeman, Norfolk, and he had a big part in shaping what is today Norfolk County. So I got to see that, and watching him and experiencing him work through that really sparked an interest in me for the county and what it could become.
Great. So not like the typical kids. We hear most high schoolers like just ready to get out of their hometowns and go explore the city and something else, and it doesn't sound like that's your story.
Not at all. I heard a lot of kids saying that they wanted to move on to bigger, better things, and I just really didn't have that feeling. I always thought the biggest, best things were here in Norfolk to start.
So I asked you to pick a location today, and you bring me to a place that I don't know very well in Norfolk. Yeah. So tell me about where we are and why you picked it.
This is a very cool spot. I know a lot of people drive by it, maybe on their way to Long Point or into Port Rowan, but this is Boose Harbor. So I grew up on Boose Harbor. My best friend, his family owned this place. So I grew up here hanging out, relaxing, boating, going out fishing, going out hunting. I worked here for a while. I did some volunteer work for the Shriners Club here, doing some chicken barbecues. So I really got to experience Norfolk and how community comes together. There's a lot of people that take up their summer residence here in trailers, and it's very cool to see all these people that are coming from other places in Ontario to enjoy what Norfolk has to offer. So it's just very cool to see that and experience it. One very cool fact about this place is that Boose Harbor has the largest amount of indoor boat storage on boathouses for all of the world.
The world?
Yes.
Wow, that is crazy. This little place.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. Something to be proud of.
I would absolutely say so.
So we've been talking about nature, and we spend lots of time outside. You bring me to a boating place where you like to fish and spend time. So tell me about your passion. Obviously there's a connection somewhere there.
Yes, absolutely. Especially recently with everything that I've been seeing happen in the world, I'm very passionate about the earth. So I want the earth to be a good place. I want Norfolk County to be a good place. Everything that I love about Norfolk has to do with outside, has to do with nature, has to do with clean water, clean air, fresh trees, everything. So I just really think it's important to take care of everything that we have here in Norfolk County, and it's not an easy thing to do. So
no. We all have to start and do our part. That's the thing, right?
Absolutely, and I'm doing my best, but it does get very difficult. It's easy to make the change, it's just hard to start.
So we were talking earlier about, doing things around Norfolk and visiting places. I know you're a busy guy, like you work, you're a volunteer firefighter. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to de-stress and relax?
I would say my number one most favorite thing to do to de-stress would be to just get out on Lake Erie. Whether that's ice fishing, fishing, boating, swimming, relaxing. It's just such an amazing place. As soon as you get out on Lake Erie and you get away from shore a little bit, you just come out to this different zone.
Other than this place, like where else do you like to visit in Norfolk County? Where else? What's one of your other favorite spots?
I would say that my favorite spots in Norfolk County would have to be broken into two categories. One is nature, being Lake Erie, boating, all of that kind of fun outdoor stuff. And I also like Norfolk's bounty. Before, maybe you had to go out to a place far away to enjoy all of this beer, wine, food, amazing service, but now we can just go out the back door, and before I can drive for 10 minutes, I found something that I can go to locally that's amazing.
A couple of winery on the way here.
Yeah, it has passionate folks in it doing things. Like, it's just great. All around here, there's so many amazing things you can do, and it's just growing, so I love seeing that.
I thank you so much for your time. I love your connection with nature and what you want to do as far as your passion with the environment. I'm in line. We need to come together for this to happen, so hopefully we can inspire a few people with this little conversation here. So
absolutely.
Thanks, Adam.
Cool. Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
My name is Jim Toombs. I'm an associate purchasing specialist here at Toyotetsu, also known as TTCA. Here at Toyotetsu, we're responsible for supplying Toyota with car parts, mainly automotive frame for the Lexus, the Corolla, and other Toyota models. I started here in May of 2016. I was in welding. Here I am 2 years later, and I'm a salaried position. The job itself it's challenging. There are challenges in what I have to do every day, and for that I enjoy it. It's not monotonous day in, day out. There's new challenges that I'm confronted with and new tasks that I have to do. A high school student who's like, I'm not sure, I think this is an excellent opportunity to kind of answer that question for themselves. They can see what kind of the working world is like, as well as pick up skills. There are plenty of opportunities here. For example, for me, I was in welding, but that didn't mean I had to stay there. There's opportunities in stamping, where you'd learn different skills entirely. PC, again, the same thing, some different skills needed that you'd learn. Though we make car parts and they're welded, there are a lot of departments and areas that support that.
My name's Aaron Pace. I'm a yard manager here at Townsend Lumber. We're a sawmill that produces lumber. We make anywhere from rail ties to timber frame home products, kiln-dried lumber, which is used for wood cabinets and furniture. We also do pallet components, and we also do stakes for farming. We ship container loads to the Middle East, we ship it to Asia. We have gone to Mexico, Singapore. We've shipped to many different locations. My father has worked here for 30 years. He got me a part-time job as a summer student. I started as a regular piler, as a laborer at the entry-level position. And with hard work and dedication, I have been promoted through the system, and it took 9 years to become a supervisor. I enjoy the freedom of the job, like outside working with the heavy industrial stuff, talking to the range of customers and the way we produce things for them.
My name is Cam Kirkwood. I'm a production supervisor at Superior Essex in Simcoe. We make magnet wire and cable for the transformer industries. Our magnet wire products are found all around you that most people don't even notice, in winding motors, in alternators in your vehicles, transformers on the side of the road or on top of poles. I've been here at the company for 15 years. I started on the floor as a machine operator for 7 years, and then I did a stint in engineering for about a year, and then I moved on to production supervisor for the last 7. One of the best parts about working here is it is a build-to-order shop, so although we do make the similar products every day, it's very unique. We don't always see the same orders. There's always new challenges. One of the best parts about being in manufacturing for me is the shift work. So it provides an opportunity for you to adjust to do your own life on your days off, or you can pursue other interests. A lot of people have second businesses or hobbies that they really enjoy. There is lots of opportunity to advance. There's educational assistance programs. You can continue to learn new skills and advance to a new area if you were so desire.
There's a great opportunity moving up the manufacturing sector.
Try it, because you're going to learn a lot about the working world as well as yourself.
Welcome to Passionate Folks, a blog and video series about the people of Norfolk. It's about people that have high energy, that get involved in their community. We sit down, have a conversation, learn about their passions. Welcome to the next episode. Hello, I'm Emily. Welcome to Passionate Folks. I love to ask questions and discover people's passion and having great conversations. So today I'm here with Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Might be you here, might be you invited me to a great place. I got to know you a little bit more today, but I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. So I'm Nick Pranks. I was raised in Langton, and I live in St. Williams now.
So Norfolk County boy.
Yeah, Norfolk County boy. Yeah. If we're going to put a location on it, and if you're asking someone where you're from, this area, you always say Norfolk County. Unless you're from Port Dover.
Did you say Port Dover?
Then you say Port Dover for some reason.
I invited you to pick a place. So tell us where we are and why you decided to invite me here.
So we're at where I work, Blueberry Hill Estates, which my family owns as well too. This is where I spend probably my entire day, every day of the year. So we're located on the patio here, and we're basically overlooking the patch. And you probably cannot see from the camera because it's on the other side of the camera, but the lake is just on the other side.
I love to hear about people's passion, and I know you have a lot of projects going on, and I want to dig further into your passion. So what do you think really stands out for you? What are you really passionate about?
So day in, day out, I'm typically making wine or working the field, so that's something I'm really passionate about. I'm also the president of the Ontario South Coast Wineries and Growers Association, which encompasses Norfolk along with other neighboring counties. And so I'm really passionate about trying to raise awareness of this area for growing grapes and making world-class wines.
And so winemaking, like what draws you to it? Why are you making your whole life right now? And why winemaking in Norfolk County?
Well, I guess you could say it's one of the best agricultural products you can make.
I agree.
It's something that you can preserve, and like even after the crop is finished, you still have to work with the crop that you were working out in the field all year round. And when you put it in a glass of wine, you have memories of how that year was when that wine was made.
So it sounds like you spend a lot of time on this farm, a lot of time on this like part of Norfolk County, but if you have time to de-stress, where would you go? What do you do in Norfolk?
I definitely like going to the beach. So, getting out in the water when it's a hot day is truly nice.
Not too far from Turkey Point, I guess. You can roll down the hill.
Yeah, we got excellent restaurants here too, so which is pretty amazing for the per capita, the amount of people that live in Norfolk County, that we have enough restaurants that you count them more than your two hands or whatever, which is
really
nice.
Good ones too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so exciting to see how our agro-tourism industry is developing in our area, and it's kind of cool to see you guys like working together and really promoting this area.
Well, when you think about farming from what it was in the past, it has to evolve over time though to make it an industry that can support itself. It allows people to be able to figure out ways to succeed or have succession in their family, to go to that next generation, so that way we can have countless more generations of those families living in Norfolk County, growing the things that their grandparents grew.
And keeping the passion alive.
Exactly, yeah.
I thank you so much for your time, Nick. I thank you for inviting me in this beautiful place. I cannot wait to explore some more. And
It's too bad it's not pizza day.
No, I heard that was really good. I'll come back. I'll be back. Thanks, Nick.
No worries. Cheers.
Welcome to Passionate Folks, a blog and video series about people who live in Norfolk. People that get involved in our community, people that are passionate about living here. We sit down, have a conversation, and learn about their stories. Welcome to Passionate Folks. I am Emily. I love to connect with people. I love to ask questions and get to know people better. So today I'm sitting here with Scott. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So Scott, to start, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and where you live?
My name's Scott McCrae. I'm a chef here in Norfolk County. I'm the chef at David's Restaurant in town, and I live in Port Dover, or just outside. And yeah, all my family's from Port Dover. I moved here in high school and left for a bit and moved back, and now
Made it your home.
Made it my home. Yeah, it was my home before. I realized it was my home while I was away, and yeah.
Came back to the roots.
Yes, exactly.
So as I do with every guest, I ask you to pick a place in Norfolk County for us to do this interview.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me where you invited me and why you picked this place.
Well, we're here at Matt's Fruit Barn, just outside of town, and it was a pretty easy choice. I know we wanted something that was kind of related to what I do. We were also talking about how diverse Norfolk County is as far as things that grow here, and it's like #1 for so many different fruits and vegetables. And one of the first things I always think about is just, especially considering what job I have, is food. Norfolk County produces so much food and grows so much food. This property here that Christine and Jess and the family have, kind of, they grow more things here than I can even think of. Like, you look around,
Representation of Ontario's garden. When
exactly.
You visit this place, isn't it?
Yeah. This is kind of just like a little example of what this area has to offer.
So I love to dig in people's passion and see what lights them up. And I'd love to know about you. I think I may have a little bit of an idea, but what are you most passionate about?
That's a tough one. I think definitely I'm passionate about food and what I do. That's something that since I was young, I've always associated memories. Like a lot of people with songs or with like smells or things, it'll just trigger a memory. And a lot of my early childhood memories have to do with food. There'll be a weird little thing that I remember, like, oh, that was my first like black olive I ever had, or that was like, there's a lot of memories that kind of are associated with that.
Big connections to
Big
food
ones,
and
yeah. Like
stories.
the mulberry tree in my grandparents' backyard, and we just stand for hours underneath just like eating mulberries. And
So I know you work long hours. It's a busy season for you in the restaurant. When you have some downtime,
time, where do you like to go in Norfolk? Where do you like to have a good time?
Well, I'm lucky that all my family lives here. I moved away for a while. I moved to the city. I was in Yukon for a bit. Just being back and being able to see family is I don't get to see them enough still, but it's definitely a big reason why I came back and something I like to do. Friends too, you know, just hanging out on local patios or at their house or watching Leafs games. Well, I've always been kind of, from my grandma when I was a kid, I got really into like birds. Yeah, so I mean, there's binoculars in the truck right now with the bird book.
Go to Long Point or where?
Well, of course, like that's Long Point. Well, around here, like I'm lucky I live out of town. You can drive out and see the tundra swans at Long Point when they come through. It's really a mecca for that. If you're into that, I'm a bit of a weird, obsessive record collector, and I've got a lot of records.
Do you like to see live music around? Is there
of course.
decent bands that are around that you like to?
Oh, tons. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's great. I mean, like a lot of my friends are musicians, and there's not a ton of downtime, but when there is, it's like sometimes just things that are just nice and relaxing. It always helps when you have like a local brewery.
And there's a lot to pick from. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones. It's really exploded, especially since I moved back from Toronto about 10 years ago, and even in that time, it's the wine scene, the beer scene, the ciders, like all that has just exploded, and it's all really good. Like,
so do you think, like, just back to the winery and the brewery, like, you know, after high school and when you wanted to leave and get to the city and get out of here and coming back and finding it like right here?
Well, even when I originally moved back, I was intended on going back to the city, and I came back and just realized that this is where I wanted to be. This is where my heart is. This is where I really belong, and I have friends there, but the friends that I have here are friends I've had since I was like in high school, right? So there's something there where there's
We live in a pretty cool place.
Yeah, it's great.
I thank you so much for your time. I love connecting with you and learning about your passions, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks.
Welcome to episode 6 of Passionate Folks. This is a blog and video series about the people of Norfolk. We sit down, have a conversation, hear about their passion and what lights them up. I'm excited to introduce the next guest. Welcome to Passionate Folks. My name is Emily. I love to connect with people, having some conversation and learning about people's passion. Today I'm sitting here with Sue. Hey, Sue.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm so glad that you took the time to come out and have a conversation with me.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Yeah, so for people that don't know you, can you start with introducing yourself, where you live, where you're from, and a little bit more about you?
Okay, sure. My name is Sue Downs. I live in Simcoe, born and raised here. And I work for the Simcoe Reformer newspaper and started there way back in 1988. So, and loved my job, loved Norfolk County, and was really pleased that Emily asked me to be part of this. I think.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, so far, so good.
Great. So, as always, Sue, I ask a guest to pick a location so we can explore it and discover a hidden gem in Norfolk County. And this one is a little bit different. So, tell me where we are and why you brought me here.
So, we're at Norfolk County Fair. We're at the bottom of the Junior Farmers Building here.
So, why do you pick the fair? What's so special about the fair to you?
I think for myself, Norfolk County Fair is like one of the largest events that happen in Norfolk County every year. It's always been near and dear to my heart. Like I think so many childhood memories. It's all about tradition. For us growing up, at my age, I've only missed one fair in all of my years, and that was when I was in Timmins. So I just love the fact that you can come to the fair. There's so much excitement. There's always lots of things to see and do. Like family would come home during Thanksgiving weekend, and I think that still happens today, right? Like it's all about tradition and all about community, which I feel like I'm pretty passionate about.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask you a little bit more about your passion. I see you a lot being involved in the community and supporting local businesses, and it seems like it's really important to you and close to your heart.
I like to promote local as much as possible. So whenever we go out for dinner, a lot of people go, do you ever stay home? Because you'll constantly see posts on social media, on Facebook or on Twitter, and it's like, you know, we're at the Barrel, we're doing this, we're at Long Point Eco Adventure, we're, you know.
It's so good that you're taking the time to promote those local businesses and support. And I remember when I started my business, you were one of the big supporter of sharing what I was doing. And I know a lot of people have felt the love that you give to entrepreneurs. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. But it does make you feel good, and it is important. I feel that, you know, if we can, you know, support each other as much as possible, like it's again, it's all about giving back.
So Norfolk County and specifically Simcoe has changed quite a lot. We are moving in a different direction in our county. So from you like growing up in Simcoe and in the downtown, and what's happening around now, like what's the highlights for you?
Okay, well, the highlight growing up was always, you know, going downtown on the weekend. People that are watching this that are my age would remember you used to be able to go to the Tartan restaurant and Woolworths and different places down there. But I think a lot of the exciting thing that I see now is a lot of the collaborations that are happening within Norfolk County. And one that stands out is, you know, Burning Kiln and then Long Point Eco. And then along came, you know, my buddy Dusty and the guys from Hometown Brew. And then now Joy Cafe out there. So it's really cool to see a lot of the business people working with each other and stuff like that too. So that sort of stuff.
You don't have to go too far. You show up there and everything that you love is right there.
It's like a lot of renewed, you know, it just seems like a lot of positive things are happening within our community, and it's really good to see.
So I know you have a pretty high-stress job, so maybe tell me a little bit more about what you do to relax, calm down, and look after yourself.
Okay, well, I do like to garden. I find that, you know, if you're kind of stressful and it's a stressful day, you get out there and take it out on all the weeds in your garden. I also like to, you know, walk along the trail from Davis Street and then head out along the 14th or whatever. And you can, like, it's heading right towards Waterford, so you can actually walk from there right into Waterford. I've got a dog that keeps me pretty busy, and then a group of like really good friends that we are going out with each other like all the time and stuff like that.
I know you have a lot of favorite spots in Norfolk, so we already named a few, but if you have a day off and you want to explore Norfolk County, is there one specific place that you actually love to visit that you feel just at home?
I would say for myself, it depends on the day. So if it's just something that I want to go and like, you know, do a walk or whatever, it would be my trail on the 14th, because it is kind of private. There's not, you do run into a lot of the same people and stuff like that. I also like going down to Dover, and I'll sit at the cafe and kind of look around there.
You can watch a little bit?
Yeah, you know, that sort of stuff, and then even take off and go to the pier. Actually, my mom has a bench there for my grandfather, who was a fisherman down in Port Dover as well too. So it's kind of nice.
Memorial benches.
Yeah.
Very cool. It sounds like pretty much everything you need is right here.
Why should I go out of town? Why do I need to go out of town? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that, you know, right in Norfolk that we need. Yeah.
I'd love to hear your passion for Norfolk and how well you support the local businesses, and just, I see you at fundraiser and you're always involved in your group of friends and supporting whatever is happening in the county. So we need more of you, Sue, and Norfolk. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I think this little chat, I'd love to get to know you better and hear more about your passions.
Well, thanks very much for allowing me the opportunity. It was great. Thank you.
What if there was a place just outside the hustle and bustle, where the beauty of nature was right at your doorstep, inviting you to join in the fun.
Good job, guys. Got it.
What if there was a place where the landscapes were as diverse as the bounty they produced? And the term field fresh was more than just a marketing ploy. It was a way of life. What if there was a place where history and heritage shared the stage with technology and innovation, and success happened without much fanfare, on back roads, nurtured by wise and hardworking people? What if there was a place as lush as an ancient garden that was, for centuries, a place to explore, live, and play? A place of promises and hope. A landscape filled with possibility. And what if this wasn't just a place to escape to, but a place you could settle into? What would you call such a place? Well, we call it Norfolk County.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Steven.
And we are
Norfolk County's Digital Service Squad.
We're here to let you know that Digital Main Street is offering 3 unique ways to help small businesses right here in Norfolk County. The first limited time program is the Digital Service Squad. We're traveling all across Norfolk County to help small businesses with their digital strategies by offering free assessments and consultations. The Digital Transformation Grant. This $2,500 grant is available to qualified Norfolk County businesses who are looking to achieve their digital goals. We're instructing all interested businesses to act fast as the deadline to apply is October 31st. The grant application window is open now and all entries are reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis. Don't miss out on this great opportunity. Apply now. Digital Main Street has also extended their Shop Here program. This amazing initiative creates online stores for independent small businesses and artists at no cost. Find us on Facebook or send us an email at digitalmainstreet@norfolkcounty.ca.
Hey, Benny. Working hard or hardly working?
Ho, ho, ho. Very funny. I tell ya, I had enough of peppermint.
Well, what do you say I bust you out of candy cane duty, we head back to Norfolk County, and you help me get the gifts on this list?
What list?
This list.
Whose list is this?
This list?
That list.
What does it matter whose list it is? It's a list full of gifts. And as elves, it is our duty to get the gifts on this list.
Well, have you checked it twice?
What do you mean if I... Let's just go.
Okay, Norfolk's a big county, so we're gonna have to move fast if we want to get every gift on this list. Extra virgin olive oil from the barrel. A Christmas doormat from Nifty Gifting Norfolk. Wait, can't you just order these at shopnorfolk.ca?
Yeah, but don't you just love a road trip?
Okay, first stop, Port Dover. Here we'll grab mint fudge from Coca Cabana, handcrafted earrings from Cabin 509, and an Oxygeno Superfacial from Magnolia Metaspa.
Now that's an elfful. I don't know. I was looking for something with more bells and tinsel.
Yeah, it needs more blingle.
How about a pair of Christmas socks? Does that add enough blingle?
Blingle all the way! In Simcoe, we'll grab Norfolk barbecue sauce from Sloth and Molasses, guitar strings from Eerie Music,
VG Bacon from VG Meats.
Bacon. Can you believe they had this in the fiction section?
It should be in True Crime. Santa was clearly breaking and entering. Jackpot! What the elf? Waterford has such an eclectic range of shops.
Yeah, and they're also different too.
Welcome to Brush Designs, ground zero for all your Christmas shopping. In fact, it's a little like a Christmas bomb went off in here.
Jeez, I hope no one was hurt. Minor Brothers dog food? Check.
Hey, what's that?
Yeah, it's a dwarf mini horse. That's as big as they'll get.
Kinda like you, Benny.
No, Pixie, I'm regular size. You're the colossal giant.
Not around here, Benny. Not around here. Next up, Port Rowan, home of the shops along the shore.
This is where we'll pick up an antique vase from Franny's Attic, leggings from Sheer Creations, and a handbag from Cheshire's On Bay. You know, there's something about this list.
Hey, Ben, let's take some Alfies.
And finally, Delhi, where we'll find toys for kids.
And toys for big kids, too.
Through the mayor, we're live now.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. Welcome back there to open session. If I could have a mover and seconder to reconvene in open, 311. Councilor Taylor, second by Councilor Huffman. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, Teresa, I'm going to get you to read out the first motion for the first item that we dealt with, which was 6.2 38 Harbor Street, Port Dover, the encroachment agreement from last week's CIC meeting.
Thank you.
So through the mayor, we will need a mover and a seconder for that staff report CAO 2186 from the February 8th CIC meeting regarding 38 Harbor Street, Port Dover encroachment agreement be received as information, and that the Corporation of Norfolk County execute and register an encroachment with 1704365 Ontario Limited, Nicole Dieck being the current owner of the property located at 34 Harbor Street, Port Dover. The property is legally described as PDOV Plan 207 PTRWY Lot 6, PIN 50247-0380 LT, to recognize the encroachment of portions of the existing building on the municipal right-of-way known as Harbor Street, Port Dover, and that the applicant pays all costs associated with the encroachment application, including the registration on title of the encroachment agreement, and further that the necessary bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the said encroachment agreement be presented to council for adoption once the conditions of storm sewer easement and repair has been completed by the developer.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Shelley, seconded by Councilor Ravitz. All those in favor? That is carried. Next item is 6.1 Ontario Land Tribunal, 24 Lynn Street, Port Dover. Mover and seconder, that direction was provided to legal counsel in closed session. Councillor Vanden Rishi, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ravitz. All those in favor? That is carried. 6.3 Ontario Land Tribunal, case number OLT 210011379. That's College Street, Port Rowan. Direction was provided to legal counsel in closed session. Councillor Martin, thanks. Seconded by Councillor Columbus. All those in favor? That is carried. And 6.4 Ontario Land Tribunal, case number OLT 0013355 15J Lynn Crescent in Port Dover. That the memo was received as information. Mover and seconder. Councillor Shelley, thank you. Councillor Taylor, all those in favor? That's carried. And then we're going to move on with our next deputation from Mark Leffler regarding the realty purchase for the portion of Douglas Street. And that will be followed by staff report CS 22-026. Mark, welcome, sir, and you have 5 minutes. If you'd like to turn your camera on, you can. And if it is on and I'm not seeing you, that could just be on my end. And I think you're still on mute there as well, if you're hearing this. Perfect. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I really don't have anything to say at this point. I was going to wait until it came up in the agenda.
Through the mayor, if I can, Mr. Leffler, to do a deputation, you would provide your comments in advance. It's not a typical practice of council to have public members speak to just reports on the agenda. So if you have concerns or questions related to the report that's coming up, it is the direction of council to deal with the report after your deputation, but this is your time to provide commentary.
Actually, I'm good at this point. I'm fine.
All right, then thank you, sir. I will turn it over then to staff. So Teresa will note then that there was no deputation. And we'll turn it over to staff for CS 22-026.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Report CS 2206 is being presented to council in follow-up to report CS 2152, presented at the Public Hearings Committee meeting of September 7th, 2021, in regards to the request by Mark and Robin Leffler for the permanent closure and conveyance of an easterly part of Douglas Street in Port Dover adjacent to their property. Report CS 2226 recaps the nature of the request by Mr. and Mrs. Leffler, along with follow-up as to council's concerns as to the evaluation and the location of a retaining wall in the immediate area. I wish to note that Mr. Leffler, on review of the report, noticed an error with respect to the overall parcel size, and as opposed to it being 2,614 square feet, it should actually be 1,409.78 square feet as per the survey completed for the property. I wish to apologize to Mr. and Mrs. Leffler and to council for this oversight and any confusion. Based on the above, I did reach out to the appraiser to advise her of the oversight in the parcel size and to inquire as to whether this would make any difference in the appraised valuation of $3.50 per square foot, and she noted that it would not. The revised valuation based on the amended parcel size would be $4,934.23. With respect to the location of the retaining wall, staff requested an Ontario land surveyor complete a survey of the area, which has determined that the retaining wall does not encroach on the abutting 1-foot reserve that the county owns. Staff's recommendation is to sell the portion of Douglas Street to the Lefflers for the appraised valuation of $3.50 per square foot. And with that, staff will take any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Councillor Van Passen, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to go back to that retaining wall. We've clarified it's not on the 1-foot reserve, but you know, when I look at that, I think that retaining wall there is to protect the property to the south, but it's now going to be owned, or if this is approved, it's going to be owned by the property owner to the north. And that was sort of my question, like, won't that create a problem between two neighbors if we sell part of a road allowance that they have a retaining wall built on to protect their lands?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Passen, the retaining wall is actually on the lands of the property owner to the south. The 1-foot reserve is between that property owner's lands and Douglas Street. And the survey has indicated that that retaining wall is on the lands of the property owner to the south. So it won't be encroaching in any way upon Douglas Street and what would be sold to Mr. and Mrs. Leffler.
As long as we're not going to create problems, then I'm quite happy with that answer.
Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Chop. Through you to staff, I just would like to take this opportunity to confirm with you that we haven't heard from the other neighbors. Now, this is the second staff report that's come forward.
Through the mayor to Councillor Martin, yes, I did reach out to the neighbor to the south by email, advising them of this meeting today and that a further report was coming to council. I did not receive any response from those property owners, nor did I receive any notification of an undelivered email.
Very good, thank you.
Councillor Van Rishi, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. Don't want to be a stickler, but measure twice, cut once. You have remeasured this property again, everybody, like whoever's in charge of measuring?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Andrieschi, a survey has been done of the property now, which is the most accurate reflection of parcel size. The previous plan that was done internally by staff, and I would think it was a typographical error. I do apologize for that, but the survey is the defining document when it comes to area.
Thank you. As long as it's been measured again. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Van Rishi. My question, Lydia, what is the cost on an appraisal for a property like for this portion of the road allowance? What would BC Appraisals have charged us?
On this particular appraisal, I'm pretty certain it was $500, Mayor Chop.
Okay. I just, you know, I find it, I think we need to establish, and this is maybe Teresa for the clerk, a process where we seem to have some where, you know, we're directing an outside appraisal be used in some cases, but not in other cases, but yet we have a policy that we're supposed to be following. Now, I appreciate that the appraisal has come back in over what our policy states, but we also have, you know, had a direction to go and change our policy moving forward. But I think in order to ensure equity amongst constituents, though, at the same time, we also can't, you know, if that's the policy, that's the policy. unless there's some overwhelming reason. But then in that case, I think that it needs to be voted on by council. And I'm just not sure in each of these instances where we have directed staff at a public hearings committee to engage in a second or in an appraisal rather, as opposed to following the policy. I don't think it's actually been a vote of council. It's just been a member, you know, mentioning that would be a good idea. So I think that's something for the future that we need to sort out our process internally with the clerk's office. That can't just be done at the direction of a single councillor.
Through the mayor, thank you for those comments.
Okay, so is there any other questions from council members, or does somebody wish to move the staff recommendation or propose an alternative? Councillor Martin? Staff recommendation, I'm assuming. Okay, seconder then, Councillor Taylor, thank you. Any further discussion on that matter? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on here, I just lost my spot back again. We're going to move on to communications, which is item 8. There's 5 communication items for today. Does any committee member wish or council member wish to pull any of the items of communication? No. Okay. Councillor Van Den Riche, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment on 8.1 that I think is an excellent idea. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks.
That's it.
Any others? With that, then, if I could have a motion to receive communication items 8.1 to 8.5 is information. Councillor Rabbits, thanks. Seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the approval of minutes, that's item 9. We have the regular and special council minutes before us today. Council meeting minutes from January the 18th, 2022, open and closed, and special council meeting minutes February the 14th, 2022, open and closed. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay, seeing none then, if I could have a mover to approve all sets of minutes as presented. Councillor Van Den Riche, thanks. Seconded by Councillor Huffman. All those in favor? That is carried. Reports of committees. We have 6 reports of committees under this section of the agenda. Does any councillor wish to discuss or pull any of the items from the committee minutes? Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. Tourism and economic development minutes. I would like to pull those, specifically resolution 2, 7, and 8. Thank you.
And Councillor Columbus?
Yes, I was looking at, it's with respect to page 82 with the arenas, the arena repairs on the dressing rooms. Just looks like there's some confusion where it talks about, it mentions 3 arenas, but it doesn't mention the length of an arena, but they do say 4 Norfolk County arenas. So it just needs some clarification on that, along with bylaw 222-14, because they don't match up with what we're trying to do here.
Okay, so while staff sort out your question, Councillor Columbus, I'm going to go back to Councillor Martin with the Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Board minutes, and the floor is yours, and we'll just give Bill a time to get those answers. Councillor Columbus.
Great, thank you, Mayor Chop. Specifically, I'm finding my page 96 of our agenda. The first resolution is looking for Norfolk County to adopt a proclamation that this year be the year of the garden. The Tourism and Economic Development Committee received a deputation, an excellent deputation that's actually available online should you wish to watch. And the committee endorsed it unanimously that we adopt this year to be the year of the garden. And we had an excellent conversation surrounding how we could personalize Norfolk County in the Year of the Garden. Instead of just looking at Garden of Natural Flowers and Wildlife, we began a discussion surrounding agriculture and farming and how we could look back on our history specifically and work with our communications team to really showcase Norfolk County, the history of all things garden, whether it be a farm garden or, you know, a natural garden. And so we fully adopted that, and I told the committee that I would bring it to council for discussion and hopeful proclamation for a Year of the Garden.
So would you like me to just read that resolution? I'm assuming you're moving that then?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay, so the resolution is that the Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Board meeting recommend that council pass a motion proclaiming the year 2022 as the Year of the Garden with a resolution similar in nature to the following. So this is how the motion would read. Whereas Norfolk County is known as Ontario's garden and has a rich agricultural and horticultural industry, and whereas communities in Bloom and Florent de Quebec, in collaboration with the Canadian Garden Council, invite all municipalities to celebrate the Year of the Garden in 2022. And whereas the Year of the Garden 2022 celebrates the centennial of Canada's horticultural sector, and whereas gardens and gardening contribute to the quality of life of our municipality, our climate action goals, and create safe and healthy places where people can come together in the spirit of inclusivity and reconciliation. And whereas the Year of the Garden 2022 will highlight and celebrate the important contributions of gardeners, our local gardening organizations, horticultural professionals, and local horticultural businesses, which contribute to garden culture and experience of our municipality. And whereas gardens and gardening have helped us face the challenges of the COVID pandemic. Therefore, be it resolved that Norfolk County hereby proclaim 2022 as the Year of the Garden in celebration of the contribution of gardens and gardening to the development of our county, our municipality, and the lives of our citizens in terms of health, quality of life, and environmental challenges. And that the Saturday before Father's Day, National Garden Day, June 18th, 2022, be recognized as Garden Day in Norfolk County as a legacy of Canada's Year of the Garden 2022, and that Norfolk County is committed to be a garden-friendly city, supporting the development of its garden culture, and is proud to have, and Councillor Martin, do you have 2 initiatives you'd like to name there?
I would go back to the history and heritage conversation the committee referenced surrounding gardens, as well as diversity in our gardens as 2 of the conversations had.
Okay, and further that all municipalities across Canada be invited to proclaim 2022 to be the Year of the Garden in their respective municipalities, and that a copy of this resolution be provided to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for that purpose. Is there a seconder for Councillor Martin's motion? Councillor Huffman, thank you. Is there a discussion on that, Councillor Columbus?
No, I just want to finish. I have to report on the Agricultural Advisory Board minutes.
Okay, we'll come back.
For the new rules that the clerk's office has laid out for us.
Okay, let's finish this and we'll come back to you. Any further discussion on that at all? All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Martin. Number 7, I believe you said, and 8.
Yes, thank you for reading that, Mayor Chop. And if you have your pages handy, I'll call on you to read the additional 2 as well, because I still haven't got my pages in order. But Resolution 7 spoke to a discussion where the group was specifically looked to have their information received, commentary received and put into the Port Dover secondary plan. I don't know how much of a requirement it is for council to pass that motion, but I did want to address it in case staff needed that direction.
Okay, we'll just keep it simple. So you can move that the Port Dover secondary plan be received as information, which council has already done, but the second portion here, that staff be requested to consider incorporating comments received from the Planning Advisory Committee into the Port Dover secondary plan. Seconder for that motion? Councillor Michele, thanks. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And finally, resolution number 8.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Mayor Chop.
It just reads that the growth management study be received as information. Again, that's already been done by council, but that staff be requested to present the next component of the growth management study at a future board meeting. So that'd be at a future tourism and active meeting. No, providing direction to staff. Is there a seconder for Councillor Martin's motion? Councillor Ravitz, thanks. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, Councillor Columbus, let's deal with your first issue, which is the Recreation Advisory Committee minutes. Is Mr. Cridlin online?
It's actually, I think we were waiting for Bill Cridlin to.
Yep, I think he's here, so
I'm here, Madam Chair.
thanks, Bill.
If I could just have the councillor repeat his message or his comment or question.
Right, yes, it was, Bill, it was with respect to the council and committee minutes. And right in the middle of the page on page 82, it mentions 3 arenas, but they've neglected to put Langton in there. And I do believe we're including Langton as one of the 4, right?
Yes, through the Madam Chair, it is Langton, Delhi, Waterford, and Port Dover. So we can have that edited. It should be in there if it is not.
Okay, and I don't know if it's mentioned on the bylaw 2022-14. I don't know if it's missed there or not. I don't see it, but maybe you didn't include the arenas in there. Just might want to check that.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
You're satisfied with that, Councillor Columbus?
Yes, I am. And,
Okay, anything further from council before we move on? Oh, Shelley, I see your hand, sorry.
Thank you through the mayor. If I could assist Mr. Cridland through Councillor Columbus. I just had the county treasurer verify all 4 arenas are included. However, we required a budget amendment for only 3. For Langton, we included a sufficient budget allocation. So that's the difference there.
great, thanks for clarifying that. I didn't see it that way in the report, so appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. All right, so then if I could have a motion to approve all sets of minutes as presented. Councillor Columbus, Teresa, yeah, oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm going to let Teresa start this because there's a new process with respect to these recommendations that have to be totally approved by.
No, that's not in the procedural bylaw. It's a recommendation when she brings forward a new procedural bylaw that will be included. We're not doing that yet.
Through the mayor, that item is further down on today's agenda. But this was, I believe, Councillor Columbus wanted to pull a couple things from the Ag Advisory minutes for discussion today.
Okay, that was my question, was does anybody wish to pull any of the minutes? So.
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking to pull anything. I just wanted clarification on that new process that we introduced. I'm learning today that it's not incorporated yet. Is that it?
That's correct. It was a report from staff that when they developed the new procedural bylaw, which was the avenue that Teresa to incorporate those changes, how she wished those future changes to be incorporated.
So now,
but they're not incorporated. It's not in our procedural bylaw yet.
I'm just wondering why the clerk's department sent this to me, Teresa.
Through the mayor, if I can clarify. So when we get to the further report on today's report, what we've discovered is there's a whole bunch of advisory recommendations that haven't been dealt with. And so in advance of today's meeting, because we knew that the discussion is later on, we wanted to give councillors a heads up that if there was stuff from the last set of minutes that they wanted to make sure was actioned or discussed by council, it was up to the councillors to bring it forward, which is actually our current process, but just maybe hasn't been being followed. So I understood, Councillor Columbus, that there were items from the AAB meeting minutes, the recommendations that were made there that you wanted to discuss at council.
Okay, thanks.
So I know, Teresa, that has been the process. I mean, it's just that it doesn't often happen, but certainly when councillors have wanted to pull items, that's just the way that we have handled it previously. So I'm going to ask one more time. Does any member wish to pull any of the remaining minutes? Okay, in that case, I need a mover and seconder to approve the sets of minutes as presented. Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Councillor Columbus, go ahead.
No, I was shutting my my hand down.
Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. The first staff report, that was moved to a consent item, so we don't need to deal with that. Moving on to 11.5.2, that is the municipal modernization program, the third intake for the transfer payment agreement with a budget amendment. And Kathy, I'll turn the floor over to yourself.
Thank you, Mayor Chop and members of council. The report before you today is a good news report and relates to the Municipal Modernization Phase 3 funding program, which includes 2 separate funding streams. This grant opportunity provides funding for municipalities to undertake expenditure reviews with the goal of funding efficiencies and lowering costs in the longer term. The first success story is the approval of the Risk Management Software Modernization Project, which will provide 65% funding up to a maximum of $38,500. Currently, managing insurance claims is a very manual process. The implementation of an insurance claims management software will automate claims, etc., and will also assist us in risk management. And in the long term, we'll run into cost savings and improved communications between staff and the public regarding claims. Staff is requesting the council approve a budget amendment and increase the budget from $50,000 to $60,000. This increase requested is mainly due to higher anticipated costs. The overall impact as a result of receiving the grant is a reduction in the need to rely on the insurance reserve fund for the full $50,000 that was previously budgeted. The second application was for a Norfolk County Records and Information Management Modernization Review to be conducted by a third party. This stream provides 100% funding up to a maximum of $152,600. The project will involve the review of the county's records management bylaws, policies, and procedures with the purpose of comparing and aligning with best practices. This review and final report will identify areas of improvement and provide recommendations that identify cost savings and improved efficiencies for the county to implement. Again, staff is requesting a budget amendment as this project had not been identified within the 10-year capital plan. And lastly, in order to enter into a transfer payment agreement and receive funding, the province requires council to authorize staff through a confirming bylaw to execute the agreement as outlined in the report. The transfer payment agreement includes requirements for interim and final reporting in order to receive funding. And with that, I can answer any questions council may have.
Thanks, Kathy. Questions from council? Seeing none, then if I could have a mover for staff's request. Councillor Huffman, thanks. Seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? That is carried. Right along, bylaws number 12. Is there any council member that wishes to speak to any of the bylaws that are before us for approval? Councillor Michelli?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As we had previously discussed today, Councillor Van Passen did notice the typographical error in bylaw 2022.
That's been corrected in the change. Yes. In the change to the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm aware of that. What I'm asking about is in the fourth whereas, given that original tax levy amount needed to be corrected, does the assessment that is based on, is that figure correct? I guess that's to Ms. LaPlante.
Through the mayor to Councillor Michelli. I anticipated that question, and yes, we did double check the assessment values to make sure that was correct. All other figures are correct. We're not sure what happened. We do apologize for the error. It is not related to last year's tax levy, so I think it was just a typo error on our part that we didn't, when we were editing and reviewing, didn't catch. So we do apologize.
Okay, well, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Madam.
Right, so a mover and seconder then to approve bylaws 4Z 2022 and 5Z 2022, bylaws 2022-06 to 2207, 2022-09 to 2022-16 inclusive, and that the bylaws be signed by the mayor and clerk and affixed with the corporate seal. Mover and seconder. Councillor Rabbits, thanks. Councillor Vanden Rishi seconding that. All those in favor? That is carried. And Councillor Martin, we will move on to your motion from, is it the city or the town of Aurora?
Yes, it is, Mayor Chop. Thank you. As discussed last week with a brief introduction, this is a motion from the city of Aurora, which has been adopted to an estimated over 60 municipalities as of last week, tabling for discussion. My colleagues are very well aware with the OLT, formerly LPAT OMB, and how what that role that it plays in our community is at presently. And from my personal position, I don't think that the system fully works. That's not to say that there isn't room for some element of an appeal process, and there isn't room for some element of another level of government to look at these plans. However, it is my fundamental belief in our rural and small communities that we are should be left with the decision about what development looks like. So after lots of debate about whether or not I wanted to kind of change the motion and put forward some amendments of what I thought would be a productive OLT, I think the motion stands. I think the message being sent to the province, should this pass, that we are another municipality that's looking for change in a major way, should stand. And so I think I'd like the motion to be as is, and I look forward to debate and comments from my colleagues on what role you believe the province should play in the appeal level with development projects. Thank you, Mayor Chop.
Okay, Councillor Vanden Rishi, go ahead. Are you seconding that motion? I'm just going to look for a seconder here for Councillor Martin's motion that's on the floor. Councillor Vanden Rishi, okay. And I will turn it over to debate from council. Go ahead, Councillor Vanden Rishi.
Yeah, thanks. So many things to do. Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I do agree. But I also agree that there has to be an appeal process. So in discussions with that, I think there has to be a mechanism for an appeal process. Just because at the end of the day, sometimes we can believe in something, but also that the appellant could be able to go out and be able to have fair discussion and at least have an opportunity for an appeal process. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Vanden Rishi. Councillor Columbus, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And this has been an item of discussion for as long as I can remember, to try to restore the power back to the municipalities. But what I've always found is that it's meant to take the politics, the local politics, out of the planning process, which is very important. It's like a peer review. And all I can say is good luck. We'll see what happens this time around. But I remember last term of council, there were a few things that were fine-tuned, but they didn't move very far other than to change the name of the organization. That's about it.
Just for clarification, they amalgamated several of the bodies. That was the actual change that had occurred with the name change. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chomp. Through you, I just want to say I do support the motion. I think it's important that we realize that the official plan that we consult with our public and put a lot of time and effort into is approved by the province. So they're essentially saying that we have the right to choose our own official plan. There's an oversight there at that level. So to me, I think we should be able to move forward without the OLT.
Councillor Van Passen, go ahead. I'll let Councillor Michelle go here. Sorry, I didn't see your hand, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I would support this motion as well, although I do agree with Councillor Vanden Rishi that some type of appeal body maybe could be designed. But my biggest concern with the current structure of the OLT is I think it widens the divide between the rural communities and the urban communities. Most of the decisions are being made from an urban perspective, And I don't think that that's necessarily fair to, you know, more rural-based municipalities such as ours. So I would, for that reason, support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Van Passen, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will not be supporting this motion. To start with, I think there's some flaws to the logic. And it's already been brought up this evening that we work very hard to create an official plan. We get input from our citizens, and those official plans are approved by the province. But if people are following the rules in the official plan, then you just, as long as you're following all the rules, you just go get your building permit, you go do what you want. It's only when you step outside of what's in the official plan and you're looking for an amendment to that official plan that it is possible that it goes to the OLT because one side or the other appeals it. So again, if the province needs to approve the official plan, somebody needs to have oversight over amendments to that official plan. So, you know, there's flaws to the system. I agree with what the other councillors have said, you know, like we still need an appeal body somewhere. We just don't like the way this one's working, but I also find it rather unusual when it works in our favor, we like it. You know, the example of the lot swap cases that I believe, and Councillor Columbus could help me on this because I think it was done last term. Council had asked that that be included in our official plan. The province turned it down. We had an individual make that application. Council approved it, and the OLT, or whatever the name was at that day, they did approve it. So when we win, then it's okay. But when we lose, we get ticked off and want to throw the whole thing out. You know, I'd much rather, even if we would, to defer this and offer some very specific ideas on how to make it better. And I think, again, it's been touched on, to get more chairmen so that these issues are dealt with quickly, not, you know, a 1-year delay. Maybe some that specialize more with the rural municipalities, not specifically that every OLT chairman is from downtown Toronto. You know, let's look at some specific ideas. Maybe, you know, even the rules of the game where all applications need to be finalized in 120 days. Well, I think there's a little difference in my mind in having our planners deal with a straightforward one-off severance from a farm for a surplus farm dwelling, as opposed to a subdivision with 700 houses in it. One could be done a little quicker than another with the staffing that we have. So if we miss the deadlines and things get appealed, it's not the fault of us. It's not a fault of our plan. It's not the fault of our staff. It's just physically or impossible to do with the resources we have. So if anything, you know, I understand the concept behind it, but I can't support this motion. Just throw it out because we had a bad day and we want to start fresh, but nobody has any ideas on what we're going to replace it with to make it better. Let's get those ideas first before we just to get rid of it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Van Passen. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Chop. So building on Councillor Van Passen's comments, while there is merit to sending forward some, you know, better ideas, as in the timing that our staff has, because, you know, we see a lot of non-decision appeals head off to OLT, and that's a problem. More rural, you know, components being made to the appeal board or sorry, deciding parties. Maybe it is looking at the complexity of the development and giving our staff more time based on those various elements that would take them more time to go through it. I think all of these are suitable means to put forward. However, I do think that there's an opportunity right now, as so many other municipalities are coming together to send this bold message asking for the OLT to be dissolved. So I'd like to kind of stick together with them in solidarity. If we're being practical and if we're being realistic, do I believe that the province is going to dissolve the OLT? No, I do not, but I am in support of working together with other municipalities to send a strong message and then, you know, hopefully get a seat at the table where some of our recommendations could be put forward and hopefully adopted. And, you know, again, I just look up what's happening in Port Dover with so many of our files going off to the OLT and how much money it costs taxpayers and the negotiations that we end up doing and the level of stress that lands on all of us as we do those negotiations. We are all very well aware. I think as is, the process is broken, and sending a strong and powerful message in solidarity with other municipalities would be my priority, and then look at sending some of those other measures forward. But I do hear you, Councillor Columbus. There's merit in those comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. So just a couple of comments in closing from me before we take the vote. I certainly support the idea, like Councillor Van Passen, in the sense of I think we have all seen as a council how the OLT has overruled the democracy of local decision making. Especially with respect to density. I saw Councillor Martin had an article in the Maple Leaf last week that you didn't support the 6 stories in Port Dover. I don't think anybody supported 6 stories in Port Dover. I think that's pretty clear. We certainly didn't support it with Meisner Landing, but of course that went to the tribunal and we lost. The challenge with the tribunal now, however, when on June 1st, when the local planning appeal tribunal ceased and the OLT came into being, that became an amalgamation of several different boards, including the Environmental Review Tribunal, the Board of Negotiation for Conservation Review Board, and the Mining and Land Tribunals. So like Councillor, and I know Councillor Martin, you did point it out, you don't see the government abolishing this in the face of a motion. I totally agree. I think this was a major campaign platform for the Ford government to address the housing crisis. Amongst other issues. You know, we've often heard the term NIMBYism, the not in my backyard syndrome. So like Councillor Columbus said, you know, part of this is to avoid the politicization of housing matters and development. It was funny, actually, I had a meeting with Minister Clark, and apparently the province is using a new term that I had not heard of before, and it's called banana. Build anywhere, nothing around, nobody, anytime. So that was right out of Minister Clark's mouth at the Warden's Caucus meeting. So anyway, I can't support the motion either for the reasons, if Councillor Martin, if you brought back another motion still in the future with some recommendations on how the tribunal could be improved, that I certainly would support moving forward. But until there are changes, there still has to remain not only an appeal process for land planning matters, but the land tribunal now incorporates all of those other boards as well. So from that perspective, I can't support the motion. I was just wrapping it up, Councillor Martin. You had your 2 opportunities, and we did agree at the closed meeting, which has now been released, that I would be able to provide closing comments before the vote.
I wasn't looking to challenge you, Mayor Chop. I was actually going to see if anyone would be open to maybe an additional sentence on the end of the motion, but that's okay.
If you want to make an amendment, that's your motion.
I'm just hearing your comments and thinking about, you know, an additional sentence, maybe should it be successful, just recognizing that we don't anticipate them to dissolve it, but we would be interested in a meeting, you know, with you to sit down and discuss some of our additional comments or something along that way to get the ball rolling, and some of these other suggested comments that Councillor Van Passen has made. But
would you like my comments?
I'm just wondering if that's maybe kind of contradictory to the actual.
I think that ultimately, if this is your motion that you're presenting and it is to stand in solidarity, I mean, I've heard your comments and I can understand the way you're going, the point that you want to make. So yeah, I think that likely weakens your other municipalities if you take the same motion that the town of Aurora has drafted and then add a line at the end that says, hey, we know you're not actually going to do this, but I think in the future, if you came back with another motion that had, you know, specific recommendations, again, that's something that I certainly would wholeheartedly support.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest that we anticipate that they wouldn't, but I'm wondering. I'll leave it as you, Mayor Chop.
All right. So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Okay, and that is carried. Councilor Roberts, I did see your hand go up with that, right? I just missed my, okay. All right. Are there any general announcements from anyone, or notice of motion first, I suppose? No notice of motion, any general announcements? Councilor Van Passen, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just thought I'd bring to everyone's attention that even though Norfolk County is blessed with a multitude of specialty agricultural crops and the fruits and vegetables that we supply to the world, and we also do a pretty good job of just the regular sort of cash crops like everybody else. And I'd like everyone to know that the Great Lake Yield Enhancement Network has been running a project to improve yields on grain crops in Ontario. And the highest yield in the province was brought in by a local farmer, Kevin and Netton, 152.8 bushels per acre on his wheat crop this last year. So not only do we do all the specialty things very well, we do the regular stuff pretty good too. So thank you for your time there.
Thanks, Councilor Van Passen. Councilor Columbus, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. And over the past week, I experienced Norfolk economic development and tourism at its best. I made 2 trips out ice fishing in Long Point Bay. The fish were biting pretty good, got some big ones. And I'll tell you, during the COVID times, there's nothing better than going out there with your family or a friend and just sitting in one of them ice huts for several hours and getting a few meals. So the ice, like I say, is 12 inches thick at least. And I'll tell you, if you'd never done it before, you should try it. There were hundreds and hundreds of huts out there, probably 3 people per hut. And that is great tourism for Norfolk County.
Thank you, Councilor Columbus. Councilor Huffman.
Thank you, Mayor Chop. 2 items. One is of a serious nature. I just wanted to say that I live on Sylvia Street in Waterford, and unfortunately, this weekend there was quite a severe house fire. And I just wanted to, on behalf of all of my neighbors and the residents on the street, thank the OPP, our local Norfolk County firefighters, and our Norfolk County paramedics. There was quite a bit of drama, and they were able to rescue both occupants of the home. The one gentleman is in quite serious condition, so sending out our well wishes to him and all of his family. But it was something to behold, watching them right in action like that. I've never really had the opportunity, and they did a phenomenal job. So hats off to all of those folks. And at the same time, I do want to remind people that when you see a vehicle behind you with a green flashing light, that is a volunteer firefighter. Please move out of the way. There were some reports that there were some issues with that on the weekend. And on a lighter note, I just want to say that 57 years ago today was the first time that the Canadian flag was raised. So happy Flag Day to everyone.
Thank you, Councilor Huffman. Thanks. Councilor Van Den Riesen, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm still looking to see the Langton Community Center renovations completed, and I'm hoping that staff looks at a penalty clause for this particular contractor. I don't know if that's the way we have set up a contract or not, but I'm hoping that there is something to be done for different renovations that are being done in the county. Thank you.
Okay, anything further from anyone? Okay, thanks. Councilor Rabbits, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, I just wanted to congratulate the Norfolk County Public Library for securing a new CEO. We had a good article in the Simcoe Reformer. Adam Berry has announced Julie Kent has joined the team as the new library CEO, and I want to take a small moment to acknowledge the hard work that was done to recruit that position and welcome Julie to the municipality.
Thanks, Councilor Rabbits. Anything further from council? Okay, so then just one late closed session item that we've got to complete. Motion that council move into closed session at 4 p.m. to discuss the following matters: 16.1 staff report CS22 CO1 proposed property sale pursuant to sections 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or a local board. Mover and seconder. Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Rabbits. All those in favor? That's carried, and we will reconvene at 4:05. Just take a couple minutes there, and I'll give Teresa time to organize things, and everybody can have a short little break.
Welcome to episode 7 of Passionate Folks. This is a blog and video series about the people who live right here in Norfolk. I sit down with them, have a conversation, ask them about their stories, their passions. I'm excited to present the next guest.
Welcome to Passionate Folks. I'm Emily. I love to ask questions and get to know people better. Today I'm here with Dan. Hey Dan.
Hey there, how are you?
Great.
Excellent.
Might you stop by for coffee?
Yeah, well, nice of you to have me. I'm really delighted.
So we already had a good chat, but for people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit more about you, where you live, and what you do?
Yeah. My name's Dan Fewings, and I was a Simcoe boy, an SCS grad growing up. From 0 to 18, I lived in Simcoe. And then I think I lived in Brantford for a year, lived in Dover for a bit, and then followed a gal up north to Peterborough, or Lindsay, and I ended up spending 28 years there teaching high school. Loved every minute of it, a bunch of different experiences. And when I retired in 2014, I thought, you know, my ma's not doing so well down there. It's going to need some attention. And also followed a friend here, and bingo. And now I live just outside of Simcoe, in between Simcoe and Victoria on Highway 24.
Great. I'm so glad you took time to have this little chat. I want to go know more about you today, and I'm going to be asking some questions.
Yeah.
But first, I ask you to pick a spot that means something to you in Norfolk. So maybe start by telling us where we are and why you picked this place.
Well, I love this place, not only for the food, although in my new machination I'm more careful what I eat, so I only have one crepe a week. But I love this place because Jim and Penny, the owners, are good friends. They've hired me to play here. They give the artists freedom to be a little zany here. They're good to their staff. They run a good ship. And I love the outside in the summer. It's rocking. They do a great job getting lots of music in. I think they have music all July, August, and September, like a whack of things. And I also, you know, a few neat experiences sort of got born out here. I have a character, I do the song chef, and they were like the first ones to say, oh, you've got to come in and do it. So.
I love what you're talking about. Like, you're involved in so many things into your retirement that you seem to really enjoy the art. Is that the main thing you're passionate about, or?
Well, you know, I like joy spreading, and the most rewarding thing I think I do is my gal Rosie and I, after we had a trip to Newfoundland, and after I did a tour of Newfoundland, we picked up on the kitchen party notion, and so we have a little duet called the Kitchen Party Orchestra, and we go to the seniors' homes and the respite center in Hagersville and Simcoe, and we give them the folks their instruments to play with us, so they're part of it. They're getting some exercise, and like that is joy spreading 101.
So spent a lot of time away from Norfolk, decided to come back to Norfolk in your retirement. So tell me, like, if you don't have a gig, if you're not involved in something, like, what do you do to hang out, to relax? Where do you like to go?
Well, I love the geography, so I always like going down to one of the many shores, while there still exist.
Yes, Port Mercy's a little small this year.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. You know, I love, and
are you a beach guy, or?
Not in the summer, I'm not, but I am, you know, sort of going to the water for answers kind of a guy. Okay. You know what I mean? Yep. The Leonard Cohen dimension. And so Long Point was always like hugely special as a kid, you know? I spend a lot of time at the Simple Little Theater. That's a great organization, and they're doing fun and they're welcoming. And so I'm gonna play coming up that I'm doing, and
You don't seem to have too much downtime. Like you seem to keep pretty busy.
keeps me out of the housework. That's for sure.
You get out of the house.
Yeah. He's all busy. Making some ass right now. You know, sewing. You know.
Yeah.
And so.
Is it hard to get artists to come and play here, or people are they curious about wanting to see Norfolk and see what
and
it's
you know
about,
what? Like more people, like house concerts are amazing too. Like and I was never a musician on the road. I did 2 1-month tours with a student, and I had a buddy of mine, Jimmy Boskill, who was a student of mine. And he said, "When you retire, we're going on tour." My son is in a band, the May Hemingways, so he traveled lots east. So he booked us from Peterborough to Newfoundland, 24 gigs and 26 nights. Both, you know. But you make, you know, as a musician, you make way more at a house concert and play more concerty, less with people listening. People love to play, right? So oftentimes people think you need the applause as much as you need the money. And many people are lined up. So it's like, you don't want to do it? That's okay. I've got Tiny Talent Time and his brother here that'll play for you, you know? And so people, that's why it's so nice to be in a place like this where you know that their entertainment budget is a really significant amount of money. And there are a lot of places in town here. The 211 does it as well. Even the Norfolk has a whack of music, and it's getting bigger around here with all the, you know, with the craft beer industry, the wine industry. All those places are looking for some entertainment to get their clients in. So I think it's, you know, it's going to be significant. It's just a tricky game.
So music, obviously a big part of your life?
It is a big part of my life, yeah. I think I started when I was 13. My brother handed me a John Prine album, the very first one with him sitting on the hay bale and a guitar, and showed me the C, F, and G chords, and I never had a lesson after that.
You just learn on your own?
I just learned on my own. Guitar has, and stringed instruments often have tablature.
Yep.
Especially ones that have frets, so it's a grid really, so they can like it's easy on notation to put a number 1 on a 1. You know you're at the first, so it's an easier system. But what happened was I was working in the teachers union. I had been seconded out of teaching for a couple of years. But the head of music was leaving to become a minister, and he said, "Dan, can you teach kids how to play guitar?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I said, "Now, Larry, you know I don't read music, right?" And, "You don't?" And I said, "No, but I'll buy tablature." So at any rate, made it work. And down the road it was funny because Jimmy Boskill, who was a wizard player, doesn't read music either. He had auditioned for this art school, and I was sitting at me. They weren't going to let him in because he didn't read music. And I said, "I should let you folks know, as you know, I don't read music." And I said, "If you're not letting this kid into the program, give me 2 weeks notice, because I'm not going to be the guitar teacher that wouldn't take him in." So you got to keep it moving.
Is that one of your favorite instruments? Like?
Yeah, this is, it's a Latin instrument. It comes from like the Andes, so Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Chile. It's usually used in like... But then I found, being sort of a folky-dokey player too, it's like a good bluegrass instrument too, and it's like in the day and age of cutbacks, when the bluegrass bands start firing the banjo player and the mandolin player, you get both with one.
You show up with this one, you're good at drumming gig.
That's right.
Perfect.
And this is a charango, and it is higher up. So I started with one of these. And I'm a big fella, so it's, you know, and you don't need that strap. It sticks right in your belly button. Like you couldn't peel that off with a crowbar.
All right, so you do some improv.
I do. So like, give me a title to a song never before written. Can be anything.
Let's go with the Bikini Crepe, I guess.
Bikini Crepe?
We're here, the Crepe House.
Well, it's more appropriate on a day like today to not sing about martini. So let's think while we're in the land of sand about a crepe martini. No pina colada beside you now. No, it's done somehow. Here comes the customer now. He's probably gonna order the crepe bikini. thing about the bikini crepe, it's teeny weeny, it's how they make. I'm not sure if it's a Speedo sauce, but it's nice all the same. Ah, it's teeny weeny, but it's my favorite, that old crepe bikini. Yes, sirree, I think he's making me one now. And it might be true that you can't wait for your bikini crepe, but that's okay. Got time on my hands. Right on.
All right, cheers, Dan.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining me. Have a coffee. That was
Absolutely.
awesome.
Right on.
Love it.
Good. Thank you very much. Great. See you later. Thanks, Drew.
Great, guys.
No, it's not possible. No, I cannot tell you what to say.
I am Tom Pursley. I work at Titan Trailers. I manage the shop and design, build, program robot cells on the floor to hand off to operators to build trailer components and assemblies. I knew I always wanted to work with my hands growing up as a kid. I never wanted to be stuck behind an office doing paperwork for the rest of my life, and it really interests me to build something and see the final result when you're done.
My name's Angela Simon and I work for Annex Business Media. We are a trade magazine publisher. We produce 65 trade magazines for a diverse industries, so everything from aviation to firefighting to design engineering, manure. We have a very diverse set of magazines that we produce. I'm the production manager and I oversee the creative department in 2 divisions in Simcoe and in Toronto. We have 14 designers that lay out and design the magazines. When I started in this industry probably 26 years ago, everything was hand done. Now everything's so automated, done on the computers, and that's probably been the biggest change for me.
My name's Phil Wiersma and I work for Rasson Services. We're an industrial contracting company, so we do some custom fabrication and mechanical and electrical installations and repairs. We've built large pump skids for the oil sands out west. We've done some major factory overhauls and expansions. We do some fairly large jobs for a fairly small company. I've always liked to take things apart and put them back together, and so this is just another stepping stone.
My name is John Brock Picard. I'm 20 years old and I work at Ramblin' Road Brewery Farm. Here we make 8 different kinds of Picard's Extreme kettle chips. It's all on one line. The potatoes come in from the farm and we put them in through the hopper. They get cleaned and they go through a grading table where I inspect them and cut off all the rotten spots, pick out the bad ones. And then they go through up to the cutter. They're cut into kettle chip size and they're fried and salted. I guess the best part about my job would be the sampling. When the fresh potato chips come off the line, nothing beats them.
I think young people should be strongly considering a career in manufacturing. Skilled trades, there's always going to be a large demand for that, and they're high-paying jobs. The actual job is getting better as the new technologies come into play.
The skills you need to do my job would be definitely graphic design, computer skill. If you have any kind of video or inclination to do video or any of that kind of stuff, or web design, that's also a huge asset for what we do.
I would say if you like to take things apart and put things back together, or build things from scratch, or if you have even a creative mind, manufacturing is a good way to go.
Welcome to Passionate Folks, a blog and video series where I'll be highlighting people from Norfolk County who have a passion, who are involved in our community, who are the movers and shakers. So I'm excited to introduce every month somebody new from Norfolk that will bring you their story, their passion, and share it all with us. Come on in.
All right, welcome to the first episode of Passionate Folks. I'm Emily, and I love to dig in people's life and getting to know more about them. I'm here with Jess today. Thanks, Jess, for showing up.
Thank you for having me. This
Yes.
is so exciting.
So just for the people that don't know you, introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit more about you and the person that you are.
Sure. Well, my name's Jess, and I grew up in Waterford, more specifically Boston, more specifically Bill's Corners. I'm a passionate Norfolk advocate. I love this area. I love theater. I love music. I love anything arts related. Also a passionate advocate for entrepreneurs in the area.
So I invited you to pick a location in Norfolk that meant something to you. So tell us where we are and why you picked this place.
All right, we are here in Simcoe Little Theater. It's on the corner of Talbot and Yonge in downtown Simcoe. And this place, Simcoe Little Theater, is a very special place to me. I've spent most of my life in these walls, on that stage, behind the stage, in these seats, like everywhere in this space. It's something that theater is something that's like has always been a big part of my life since I was about 8 years old.
You mentioned to me that you also in high school, you were really involved into the drama program and all that, so.
I had walked the halls of my high school and I had seen so many pictures on the wall of different shows they had done throughout the years, but nobody was doing shows anymore. And I was like really bummed about that. So in grade 10, me and my girlfriends, we roped all our moms in. We're like, if we start doing high school shows, like, will you guys help? Will you make costumes? Will you whatever? And they all jumped in.
Involved.
Yeah.
I love that, right? Like, that's a small community, like
that's
everybody
it.
coming in together.
And like, that's what it requires, right? Like a show is like a mini village coming together, like making all the pieces happen.
So this community, I think the word, like you keep repeating it, and I think what you're creating in Groundswell is that sub-community within the community, and that really stands out. So would you say this is something that you're really passionate about?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yes, you're that connection,
totally.
right? Yeah.
I just think like community is everything. We're not meant to live life alone. I don't think. And I don't mean like you have to necessarily have a romantic partner to live a life, but just have people around you that get you. That you don't have to explain yourself. You know what I mean? You just walk in the room and they're happy to see you. That's it.
That's always such a good feeling. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, like you just have those people that believe in you too, right?
Yeah.
And just cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So I see, Jess, you're always involved in this community. Like you're volunteering places. You really want this place to grow and thrive. And so why Norfolk? And what do you love so much about this place?
Oh man, I think yeah, it's a really good question. It's a combination of things. I think the geography that we live in, the nature we have around us, that is a huge benefit of being in Norfolk. But it's also the people here, and that's why I'm so obsessed with community, because we have so many beautiful people who live here with ideas, with talents, with love and vision. And I think that's what excites me. It's like, just because we're a small town doesn't mean we have small ideas or small impact.
I want to bring some of the music piece, because I know we've been talking a lot about the theater and acting, but I know that music is so important to you.
Yes.
And a big part of your life.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about your maybe influences and what makes you feel alive in music.
Just like theater, I love performing music too. There's something really cool about being on stage like that. Before I came here today, I was like thinking about how alive I feel when I'm on stage. And I think that everyone kind of looks for that thing that makes them feel alive. Yeah. So for me, it's that.
Awesome. So I thank you so much, Jess, for taking the time to meet with me. There's going to be more feature of passionate, uplifting community people through this little video series. So keep watching. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. This is so much fun.
Awesome. Welcome to Passionate Folks, a blog and video series about the people that live in Norfolk, people that are passionate, people that are involved in their community, people that bring a lot of positivity. This is about story and conversation. Join us for the second guest. Welcome to episode 2 of Passionate Folks. I'm Emily. I love to ask questions, learn about people, get some connections. I'm here with Carrie today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been chatting with you and I got to know you a little bit more, but for folks that don't know you, maybe introduce yourself.
My name is Carrie Bokenholt. I live here in Waterford. I've lived here for over 15 years. I'm married. I got 2 kids, and I just love the community.
From our conversation today, there's a lot of the community word showed up quite a few times. So
I'm a believer of, when I moved into Waterford, I thought, wow, you know what? If we get involved, then you learn so much more. You meet so many different people. I mean, people that I know if I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yes. So I asked you to pick a location, Carrie, and so tell us.
Through the mayor, we are live.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. Motion to reconvene an open session from council, please. I can't see hands for some reason. I'm not getting everybody's video. Somebody could just take their mic off and, okay, Councillor Taylor, thanks. Seconded by Councillor
Councillor
Martin, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Van Passen, you've got a face. Is there something, it's an issue? No? Okay. So just the staff recommendation was that report CS 22 CO1 proposed property sale be received as information, and that the property known municipally as 2365 Waverly Street in Delhi and the property rule 49200902000, accepting the allowance for the fire hydrant if necessary, be declared surplus to municipal needs, and that council authorize a single source supply as outlined in Norfolk County Purchasing Policy CS02 section 4.8.4 to allow the real estate brokerage firm of Cushman and Wakefield for the marketing and sale of the properties, and further that the net proceeds of up to $406,000 from the sale of the property be transferred to the contingency reserve, and any residual balance be transferred to the property management reserve. So is there a mover and seconder for staff's recommendation? Councillor Columbus, thanks. Seconded by Councillor Van Passen. And is there discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. And opposed? Okay. Moving on then, we are going to I guess it will just be the confirming bylaw, which I don't have in front of me the number, but if I could have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw for today. Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Vanden Rishi. All those in favor? That is carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Huffman, thanks. Seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? That's carried.
Perfect.
Thank you, Councillor.